Hello. I'm very pleased to welcome you today on our symposium, Glowing Globe, Aesthetic, which is actually the real title, Aesthetic Ethics in Artificial Intelligence. This is part of our larger manifestation. We started yesterday with exhibition in Cortil Gallery, where we had artists from Croatia and some other countries. We will maybe later better understand when they will give our talk. Some of the artists are with us here physically, and some will be on the streaming and on Zoom. Just shortly about the Glowing Globe, for those who didn't experience before, this is since 1919. We started as actually continuation what I did with my husband, who unfortunately passed away, Mediascape. And idea of Mediascape and later Glowing Globe was always to connect science, technology, and art, but mostly media art in a real sense. Inviting artists who are dealing with the newest technologies, but also sometimes historically viewing the oldest technologies in media art, or just media art, as well as different generations. It was very important for us that we have from sometimes the youngest to the oldest, because the sensibility is different when the generations show their sensibilities for thinking of media art and developing also media art. So it was somehow a lot of experimental works, but aesthetically and from the idea brought secretly certain complex theories, not just as a poster thing at once. So talking about this Glowing Globe this year, I can just say that we will have today presentations, first of all, of Professor Dr. Wolfgang Ernst, who is really theoretician. Sometimes we have artists who are dealing with theory, but Professor Dr. Ernst is really one of the major theorists in media theory. Before I talk about him shortly, I will just say what we expect today. We expect Austrian artist and researcher Christa Sommerer, who is with her partner and husband dealing with, she will talk about that, with interactive technology and biology since late 80s, I think. She is really pioneer of interactive art, and both of them, and their works are presented in many, many places in the world, and they are very, very famous. And fantastic to see. She will show her works. After that, we have Filip Koludrović, Croatian artist. I will talk about him when it comes to the time. Antonio Kutleša, who is with us, fortunately. And then from 1 to 4, we will have a lunch break. After that, from 1 to 2 o'clock, sorry. At 2 o'clock, we will have also Branimir Štivić, who is with us. And after that, Polish art historian, artist, musician, very complex in her work, Małgorzata Dancewicz, who will be online and present her works, actually devoting video. We were showing in exhibition videos of artists who were devoting to one not anymore a living person, Ostoja-Kotkowski, who was Polish but living in Australia, and she will give more view on these videos devoted to him, which we can see in the exhibition also, but also about other works. And then on the end, Vice Tomasović, also Croatian artist, who unfortunately also couldn't come, but he will be on Zoom. So about each of them, I will tell a little bit more before that talk. So now I will shortly introduce Professor Dr. Ernst, because the biography are not always accessible. We will later put all on YouTube more informations. So I will just read, not to make some mistake. Until his retirement, which is actually only a couple of days, I think now. I'm taking you as still being a full-time professor. Professor Ernst had held the chair for media theories at the Institute for Musicology and Media Studies at Humboldt University in Berlin. Having been academically trained as a historian and classicist with an ongoing interest in cultural temporalities, Ernst grew into the emergent technology-oriented so-called German School of Media Science. His academic focus has been on archival theory, so actually we call it media archaeology also. It's famous last 20 years or more, and musicology, and before attending to media materialist. He currently research covers radical media archaeology as method, the epistemology, and technologos, the theory of technical storage, the technologies of cultural transmission, microtemporal media aesthetics, and the chronopoetic potentials and sound analysis, sonicity. If I pronounce something wrong, you will later say it better. From the media epistemological point of view. Ernst's most recent book in English is entitled Technologies in Being, Radical Media Archaeology and the Computation Machine 2021. But now I want to say something personal of my experience with Professor Ernst. In Berlin, where I partially live, every Wednesday during the semesters, Professor Ernst was organizing presentations of doctor arbeits of some ex-students or some others, of younger students or somebody who, whatever, you will talk maybe a little bit about that, in media theater, every Wednesday during this 6 o'clock. So anytime when I came to Berlin, I must go there because it was very interesting, very and interesting people who came there to communicate later, but also to hear different theories on media. The other thing, what is very impressive, is his media archaeology fundus, I know it in German maybe better, which he maybe one word said about that. It's a huge collection of the most historical important technological elements important for producing media. Like all television camera, like all, I don't want to say much more about that, maybe you will say better, but this labor is where students can experiment and open all these technical tools and learn about it and put them together. So it's something like which is do it yourself, to do it yourself in concrete old things. And then there is Signal Labor, so which means three places, 3 activities, plus his teaching at Humboldt University in one building. So it's such a richness that I found it extremely interesting. Besides, of course, theory and lectures that he was also giving at these moments. So the best would, of course, I'm presenting Professor Dr. Ernst, and I'm very happy that we have one real theorist on our glowing globe, giving some kind of inputs in something, and then we will hear more artists and their work. So please, if you can come.
Good morning. Thank you for this very kind introduction, which brings a bit of the atmosphere of Berlin media science to Rijeka, and I'm very honored and proud to be here. So thanks to Ingeborg Filip for making this possible, to Ivana Lucic and Gianna Portic. Now, I will talk on explainable aesthetics in media archaeological terms. And when I say aesthetics or AI aesthetics, I take the original title of this symposium, which is based on a play with letters of the word. Aesthetics, which is normally written with A-E, is now replaced by AI, saying, is there something like a specific aesthetics of artificial intelligence? And I will take this play with letters, this neographism, literally. The prevalent anthropocentrism of questions about ethics of artificial intelligence, or more phenomenologically of the aesthetics of artificial intelligence, will be counterbalanced in my talk by asking instead, is there an implicit artificial intelligence aesthetics of its own? So not related to social questions or aesthetical questions. Is there a specific aesthetics of artificial intelligence of its own? Or what colleague Alien Bogost would call an alien AI aesthetics. From the inner technical perspective that can be identified by revealing and opening the black box of deep machine learning. So I am in search of the medium specificity of artificial intelligence. Critical artificial intelligence studies are currently dominated by more discursive concerns to a degree that it risks to miss the core agenda of any philosophy of generative media arts, which is the question concerning its genuine techno-aesthetics. For example, the political so-called bias in products of deep machine learning is discussed concerning questions like the colonialism, the post-colonial prejudices which are involved in the big data training of artificial intelligence, etc. But for critical media archaeology, though, the bias, the very word bias itself, is first of all a technical term. All the engineers will know it. That refers to the electric potential of an artificial neuron that enables it to react to incoming signals at all. Aesthetics or AI aesthetics deserves to be discussed on its technological ground, first of all. Maybe we can, Daniel, show the first image, the next one image? No, the other one, this one, yes. Actually, this is the desk of the Media Archaeological Fundus, which has been introduced by Ingeborg Filip. With students, we do, from engineering kits, we construct an artificial neuron to simulate visually. This is a little LED oscilloscope, or even to sonify it, to make it audible to our ears. How does it work that a nerve cell in our brain gets inputs which are weighted and increased in potential until they transmit a signal to the neighboring cells. Now, this is the core elementary procedure of deep machine learning, where numerically electrical devices are charged and then transmit, when they have a certain bias, signals to other neighboring neurons. So this is the core elementary operation of artificial intelligence, which is, I have to say, not mathematical as in the beginning. It's pure matter and energy. You see the little electricity, the battery, and you see the electric potentiometers and resistances of which they are built. So all the mathematics and numbers and big data of artificial intelligence, first of all, come back to pure electricity and electric diagrams when they become artificial intelligence. And although they are logically equivalent to brain operations, we can see the materiality is completely different from the human biological operations. And from that we say they develop a logic of their own. It's not just a model of the human mind. It has a logic and aesthetics of its own. In a radical concretization of Marshall McLuhan's plea to focus not on media content, but on the medium message, media aesthetics is the ability to recognize, for example, the synthesizer circuitry itself when listening to electronic music. Media archaeological listening would be you hear a techno song or a popular music song by a radio MP3 player, or you hear it, but you hear not only the music, but you hear actually the electrical diagram which produces these artificial sounds. That would be a transparent media archaeology. So to have an ear or an eye for the underlying technology itself. And aesthetics or AI aesthetics can be transformed into this kind of dimension when we discuss artistic concerns like intentionality, creativity, literally, or responsibility and authorship in terms of the artificial, literally of the artificial, that is the technical agency. Especially with so-called deep machine learning, the emphasis should less focus on the anthropocentric quality of is it really intelligent? That's a very anthropocentric question to AI technology, to say how close does it come to human intelligence? But this is anthropocentric view. Media archaeology would rather look, when we see artificial intelligence, AI or AI aesthetics, not look that much on intelligence, but on the A, which is the artificial. Because, again, we see the technical simulation of a human nerve cell is a 100% technical creation, which has, again, an aesthetics of its own. And with this kind of new materialism, we have a different understanding of what is the role of art when it comes to artificial intelligence. Because, as we know, even etymologically, the artificial and the technical are one word. Latin ars and Greek techne. This is art and technology, thought at the same time. But this technical ground, what happens behind the visual surfaces of the machines? And we could even see it yesterday in the exhibition, partly. Mostly the observer is confronted with visual impressions, a visual interface. It's very rare that the artists reveal the technical and the mathematical background which constantly produces this live event. with a media archaeological intention, it is important to know these operations behind to explain the medium specificity of the aesthetic message itself. So, just like aesthetics refers to the signal processing, sub-symbolic level of technical operations themselves, with artificial intelligence, medium specificity does not exclusively relate to the material anymore, how it has been discussed for painting and sculpture by Lessing or Clement Greenberg. They said, look at the medium specificity of art by looking at its materiality, the screen or the sculpture materiality. This has been part of modernist art aesthetics. But now with technological art, with media art, another element comes in, which is the entanglement of matter, which used to be the materiality of traditional art. But nowadays, matter is entangled with the techno-mathematical regime, both with electronics and with mathematics. The most material, electronics, and the most sophisticated, abstract mathematical. Now this is a different ground which has to be excavated and made transparent by critical media archaeology. If the classical cybernetic information aesthetics developed by mathematician Birkhoff, who calculated the measure of pleasure which is derived by the relation between order and disorder in an artwork. This has been developed then by Abraham Moll in Paris or by Max Benzel in Stuttgart in Germany and by many others. The first generation of a heroic generative media art, cybernetic media art. This has been already a radical break with conventional artistic aesthetics indeed. And what happens nowadays? The essential idea behind AI tools which you might use, like Stable Diffusion or Midjourney, which you use to generate AI imagery, has been inspired by non-equilibrium statistical physics. Now we see how radically this physical materiality and mathematical sophistication is now the background of generative AI products, artistic products. And the question is, can the production of artificial intelligence works still be experienced or understood if it's only reduced to the aesthetic perception? How much can humans, by their aesthetic perception, which means what they can see, what they can hear, maybe sometimes even touch, how much can the mechanism which is going on behind be revealed? So is aesthetics helpful, or does it even prevent understanding the power of artificial intelligence? So here, media archaeology is in alliance with so-called XAI, which is a short term for explainable artificial intelligence. It's of utmost importance that artificial intelligence remains critically explainable, which is not easy, because even most programmers would say that they cannot predict how the algorithms behave when they are combined with big data to produce things like text, like in ChatGPT, or images, or even videos nowadays. It's advancing fast. So that is why media archaeology aims at whitening the black box of artificial intelligence beyond the merely aesthetic perception. And to what degree then can artistic works help to get insight into artificial intelligence? One thing is to make use of artificial intelligence, but I think the role of art as well should be critical to reveal the mechanisms as well. The achievements of so-called exact aesthetics, a nice term coined by Max Bense once, has been the field of media artistic research sometimes. And we have in the Cortil Gallery installation one piece where other artists pay tribute to this heroic exact aesthetics effort of Herbert, Franke, and Max Bense and others, and Frieda Nake. In its ancient sense, I had said it already, the artistic primarily refers to the technical and to the artificial indeed. Techno-aesthetics migrated in the meantime from the human body mind, which has been the first agency of producing artistic works, to the mind machine itself. And while the cultural or the human user perspective still logocentrically subjects AI image generation to verbal tagging in the training phase and to verbal prompts in a new art of description, a different generative aesthetics arises. A specific mode of artistic thinking in media art becomes artistic tinkering, not thinking or thinkering, a mixture of tinkering, experiment with the materiality, experiment with the code and the algorithms. This is the tinkering element, but artists do it consciously. It's a kind of artistic thinking. So thinkering, this is a neologism termed by Erkki Hutamo, another important media archaeologist. This concerns data sets and AI code beyond the aesthetic surface, with the option to playfully manipulate the code in online instantiations of machine learning algorithms and diagrams. Media archaeological toys, and for me, AI artworks are epistemic toys, ways of toyfully experience and develop knowledge. They remain always close to the machine. And the tactics would be philosophizing not simply about artificial intelligence and its aesthetics, but to do it with artificial intelligence. So the human is involved in the mechanism itself to better understand how it works. The massively parallel processing of data in the layers of artificial neural nets are close to the image by nature, because the core electrical technical device of artificial intelligence and deep machine learning is the traditional graphics processing unit, which is able to process data in parallel. So inherently, this brings it close to the logic of the image, which is a parallel perception of moments in space, not linear one after the other. That separates the AI core chip architecture from the traditional computers who do one step after the other. Now it's a parallel thinking that brings it closer to the image in a very fundamental sense. Classical aesthetics thereby turns into AI aesthetics, phonetically and substantially reminding of the ancient Greek word aesthesis, that is signal perception and transduction. So aesthetics comes back to aesthesis in aesthetics. A non-human aesthetics is revealed by the stubbornness and the resistance of artificial learning mechanisms. That becomes evident in the distortions and misrepresentations which we sometimes realize in AI products. For example, if you give a prompt and you want to make an AI produce images of a telephone, it would rather produce a smartphone-like image instead of the traditional analog telephone. So we see how there is a different kind of reasoning depending on the training data coming from within the technological aesthetics. In such glitches, how we call them, the artificial becomes evident, and that are the rare moments where we see there is a different logics and different aesthetics from the point of view of the machine. So the errors, the so-called errors, are not errors. They are reminders of the fact that machines are different from human embodiment of logics. Maybe it's the same mathematical programs, but the human body is a different form of implementation than the technical body, and that should not be hidden. And I now want to come to the question finally, how obvious is artificial intelligence? And that can be exemplified by some core artworks of early artificial intelligence. In most AI-generated artworks, the operational mechanism behind the machine learning remains deeply hidden, dissimulating the abstract algebraic or concrete hardware mechanism. Can the otherwise invisible data processing still be made transparent, made an aesthetic experience? For humans, philosophy itself has created a term which comes from Edmund Burke in the 18th century, the notion of the sublime, something which we experience that something is at work there, but we cannot clearly perceive it. That would be the aesthetic category of the sublime, and I think most human observers confront AI artworks like that, in the sublime mode. With synthetic imaging, we come to the question, how obvious is the technologos, the technical logics, in such AI-generated works? And now we can, Daniel, now we can show the other photo, the portrait, the picture, yeah, this one. What we see here, you probably all know it. This is one of the first AI-generated images, the portrait of Edmond de Bellamy, which had been successful on the art market. It was sold for many, many thousand pounds at Christie's in London. That was the moment where suddenly the art market accepted AI-generated products. Now, this famous portrait of Edmond de Bellamy was created by the computer art collective Obvious. But the interesting thing now is a little detail. Look at the artistic picture signature here. It does not say Obvious or the name of the collective. And now we can switch to the last one. It's this. It's one of the core formulas of an so-called generative adversarial neural net that created this image. So even the programmers said the real author of this product is a mathematical formula. I would really like, maybe afterwards or in the pause, that you help me to say, is it actually a true formula or is it just a simulation? But it's a drastic hint to the fact that aesthetics has now, aesthetics is basically a core mathematical operation which is embodied in technology. So it's not even embodied, it's implemented. It's different from the human intellect and human perception, which is embodied and related to our sense perception, our audio perception. So it's a categorically completely different kind of aesthetics which is going on here. And so when it's understood most literally, the nice neographism or neologism of this conference, AI aesthetics, remains an oxymoron. There can be an aesthetics of synthetic AI artwork as products, but there can be no aesthesis of machine learning as a revelation of the inner logics of the machine. The ambivalent last message I want to put into discussion is, although obviously there is an aesthetic appeal of AI generative artworks, the aesthetic level hinders us to be confronted with the radical techno-mathematical existence of artificial intelligence. So either the artists reveal this mechanism behind, or they cheat the observer by the surface. That would be my provocative final remark. I don't know if we have time for a short discussion. I would be happy to take critical remarks.
Please stay here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is really fascinating lecture, and I think it's very inspiring. And maybe Vedra now, no, our mathematician. Even I in my opening speech, I forgot that very important to people for our organization and curatorial is the Ivana Lucic from Kotil, who is with us, and of course also Vedrana Mikulic Crnković, mathematician, and that's why I think it's very exciting, your lecture, to put in this question, is this a formula or not? What do you think? It is? Yes. Can you please explain? No. You don't? No. Wait a minute, I can try.
Because it would be wonderful, but I don't think it doesn't work. If I put this formula into Google, would they be able to explain? So why isn't there a sort of a mathematical Google which makes it for non-mathematicians possible maybe to? Because we can read a text, but most people would not be able to decide.
But you cannot put out the formula outside of the context.
Yeah.
So you have to know the notions that are used here and everything. So in order to explain the formula, you really need to take some time and analyze this. Mm-hmm. We can talk about that, but at the moment I cannot say anything about the formula.
Yeah. So that would even then add to my final remark, which was a bit provocative, that the media artists or AI artists, they cheat the observer. Okay. Even now, if they even say the mechanism behind is a mathematical or a techno-mathematical mechanism, they know that for most observers that would be not decipherable. So that would mean that art recedes on the purely aesthetic level and gives up the ambition to give critical insight. So that would be my question to the artists as well. How do they see their role? Do they submit to AI and say, this mechanism which I actually use to produce artworks is so complicated technically and mathematically that on that level I cannot offer enlightenment, not even aesthetic enlightenment to the observer. I have to reduce myself to the mere surface. That would be a problem for the role of art when it comes to AI.
I cannot give you this answer. Maybe our artist would like to say a word, or what do you think? Would you like?
Because, maybe, because in your artwork, which we can see in the Quartier Gallery, what I like is, of course, most people would first be attracted by the visual surface, but whether you intended it or not, if one goes around, one sees the microprocessors behind. Even the mathematics is another question, but at least we see the productive mechanism behind, which is open. I don't know if it was by intention by you or not.
Yeah, it was intention, because I like to open the process of and the technology behind the work.
Yes.
I was previously working with oscillographics and visual sound representation of work, so yeah, I like the idea of opening the work, showing the code of, mostly my media is software and a software code,
yeah,
and then video and then sound. And I like the idea of showing the observers the part of the work that produce it. But most of the time people are not interested and afraid of technology, like common observers of artwork that are not educated in technology. They are most of the time afraid of when they see some code or wires. They're just like, oh, what's this? I'm afraid. But yeah, I like the idea of opening. And on matter of that formula, probably there is a paper if it's a GAN or some other algorithm.
Yeah, it's a GAN.
There is probably paper of whole method of reconstructing, but always there is a data set of portraits. I know this work, and the artist put the history of portrait or his work, I don't know.
Well, the artist used digitized historical portraits, and because nowadays we have those image archives, which are digitally available, these image data banks, and by that, by portraits of 17th and 18th century, they trained it, and then they left this to the machine, to the GAN, where actually, which is interesting for art historians, because that one artificial network generates by random something, and then an independent artificial neural network, the so-called discriminator, judges, because it has been trained by human data, whether this is supposed to be an image or a portrait and not. And then the generator responds and tries to cheat the discriminator, as if the art critic, it's called really the discriminator, as if the art critic is still there but becomes one of your artificial neural nets. And then there is another generative artistry, the machine, which produces images which look like random or noise, and they are in a constant rivalry. That's why it's called adversarial. But this is a mechanism which we used from human culture. There are human artists and human art critics, now happens within the machine. And this is, I think this is a very radical step, that even the aesthetic discussion is not between humans anymore, and not between humans and machines anymore, like it was in the 1960s. There would be computer-generated art, but there would still be human art historians or art critics to judge it. Now it takes place within the machine. And this is the radical provocation, I think, which is nowadays taking place. So aesthetics recedes into the machine. There is an aesthetic process which goes on, even the critical aesthetics, within the machine. And I think this is a radical escalation of our traditional idea of what is aesthetics. Yeah, but thank you.
Would you like to say something? Because your work with the other artists is more sculpture and 3D and so. I don't know, Marco, is somebody on Zoom that would like to say something? Momentarily not. Okay, so.
Yeah, okay, fine.
So thank you so much. It was really so fantastic. I think it's beautiful that we are streaming everything, right? And we will have a chance to repeat to hear again your lecture. And I hope one day we will also read your text, or maybe you can give it us. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so now, just a second. I want to... Du kannst ja ich spreche ein bisschen und du magst das. Okay, so. Just a second. Please go here. Christa, so you want to prepare yourself something? So please. Can I speak in between, or shall we take 5 minutes break? So our next lecturer, Christa Sommerer, and she will prepare her presentation, and in between, can I introduce you in between?
Please, yes.
Okay, thank you. So, born in Austria in 1964. Usually women don't put their age, but you did, which I think is very good. Is an internationally renowned media artist, researcher, and pioneer of interactive art. She worked as ERMAS Academy in Gifu, the RTR Research Lab in Kyoto, and the NCSA in Champaign-Urbana, USA. In 2004, together with her partner, Laurent Mignonneau, I hope I said right, French also artist, she set up the Department for Interface Cultures in Linz, Austria. Sommerer held her visiting professor position at CAFA, Central Academy of Fine Arts in Beijing, Tsukuba University, and Aalborg University in Denmark, together with Laurent Mignonneau. She created about 50 interactive artworks shown in around 380 international exhibitions. Between 2021 and 24, after 30 years, retrospective exhibition toured through the ZKM, or Zentrum für Kunst und Medien in Karlsruhe, very famous place, to the OK Center Linz, to the IMAL Brussels. We will have to rediscover all these shortages because it's very complex, and Azcuna Centro in Bilbao. This exhibition is accompanied by the comprehensive overview of their artworks. It's now titled The Artwork of a Living System, Karin Ollingschläger, Peter Weibel, and Alfred Wediger, editors, 2022, MIT Press, Leonardo book series. I think from that very short CV, it's really visible that it's incredible work of art behind you. And you were working many years also as professor, not only in these universities, but also in Linz, and recently having experience with students, very much bringing her knowledge to young people, and also to all who had the chance to see. And I'm very happy we are showing their work in a gallery Cortil. So please, it's yours.
Thank you, Ingeborg, for a nice introduction. And thank you for being here physically and also online. Thank you also to Ivana Lucic and the mathematician. Sorry, I didn't catch your name before correctly. It's a pleasure to be here in the beautiful city of Rijeka and to be part of the community here. Ingeborg already mentioned different kind of stations in our life. I have been working with Laurent Mignonneau now the last 32 years. And as Ingeborg already mentioned, we created many artworks, and in about 2019, we were approached by Karin Ollingschläger, a well-known curator who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, to reconstruct several of our artworks for our big retrospective exhibition. And the artworks title that are highlighted here in red, and you see that some of them are already quite at the beginning of interactive art in the early 90s. We were able to reconstruct them for the retrospective exhibition. And Karin's focus was to choose works that are dealing mostly about artificial life, about life-like metaphors, and also interactive works, which is a specialty in the art production of Laurent and myself. We often use algorithms, so there's a lot of mathematics actually also behind. Since my background is biology and botany especially, we often have also motifs from nature, such as plants, or also evolution. So often botanical and also biological topics are coming very strongly into our art focus. Then here's some exhibition information from the IMAL exhibition, from the ZKM exhibition, and from the Azkuna Centroa in Bilbao, where this retrospective has now been traveling for the last 3 years. And we are actually right now looking for eventually bringing it to Asia as well, because we lived there for many years. I will now go a little bit back into this idea of what is the system of artwork as a living system. What do we mean by this? By showing you concrete examples, and also highlight a little bit the background on motivation and topics that we are dealing with. This is the outside of the Azkuna Centroa in Bilbao. We often, in the area of human-computer interaction, combined in interactive art. And as you will see, we often also develop these interfaces by ourselves, and not only use off-the-shelf technology, but really also, I think you, Wolfgang, mentioned it, tinkering, I think, is one of the things that we are doing, really opening the black boxes, making things by ourselves, and also inventing innovative interaction experiences, and often provide systems where people can interact with artificial life algorithms, but also physical interaction. So often there's also a physical component in our works. I should look a little bit at the time, yes. First artwork that we did in '92, where we were still students of Peter Weibel in Frankfurt, was interactive plant growing. Here we created an installation. My background is also installation art, so it's often also an installation in the space that is important for us. Here we put real plants on pedestals, and when people touch these real plants, they see artificial plants growing behind on a projection screen. And the way people touch this plant is actually influencing the way the artificial plants grow on the screen. We do this by measuring or picking up the electrical potential of the real plant, and then transforming this data and translating this data into growing algorithm parameters that determine how the artificial plants develop on the screen. Here's just a sort of short explanation. We measure the distance between hand and plant, and this voltage differences determines how the artificial plants then, how big they become, what kind of colors they get, what kind of rotation they have, where they grow, and eventually when people interact with the real plants in the space, by touching them randomly, or you never know what people are actually going to do, you get quite a complex virtual garden that's always different depending on what people are doing in the physical space. And this is something I think also Wolfgang mentioned before. Also, it's very dark. Wolfgang mentioned before, this is also a bit between order and chaos. And this is exactly what we like, because we find that this idea of life-like systems are often something that you can control and not control. And this is what we really want to do in artworks, that through the interaction, you conduct the algorithms, you influence the algorithms, but the algorithms are also, with parameters themselves, creating life-like systems. Another installation that we did a couple of years later, at that time we already lived in Japan, is called Eau de Jardin. Here we hang plants, real plants, from the ceiling in front of a very large projection screen. And when people come and approach these plants or touch them, they also grow those artificial plants on the screen. This time it's more like a top view. And you see here Laurent in the OK Center, or here another image. I hope you can see something, this becomes very light here. That these plants are really used as interfaces to interact with the visitors. Oh, where's my cursor? Sorry. Oh, okay. And you influence these living systems, or what we call living systems. Another topic that we got very much into is artificial life. Especially in the 90s, we started to explore generative algorithms, genetic algorithms and genetic programming, which is basically imitating principles from nature, such as evolutionary principles, and trying to extract these principles into computer programming. It's again mathematics, and look for systems that can emerge and show novel features and have results that are not predetermined by us as artists or pre-designed, but the artwork in a way, and all what I say is quite metaphorical, but the artwork evolves through the interaction with the visitors and the system itself. Here you see a work from '94. It's a pool filled with water. There's real water inside. And people can see kind of jellyfish-like forms, but they are quite abstract. And they can touch the forms also in the water. They can interact with them, they can protect them, they can play with them, and also they can create them. So here we see from the Van Gogh Museum, when it was quite in the 2000s, where we showed it. And you have to really try this system, because it's quite fascinating to create these creatures by yourself and then see them evolve. They have a genetic code which is coming from their design. So actually your drawing is a genetic code which then determines how the creature moves around in the pool, how fit it is, and also what it is going to do. And this is a system setup. People can, as I said, as I mentioned, touch the creatures. They can play with them, but the creatures have also, I don't go into details now, but the creatures have a complex behavior pattern that is always checking how fit they are, how fast they are, how much energy they have, and you get the predator-prey behavior, and also eventually through the mixture of two parent creatures, a child creature inherits the genetic code of the parents, and a small kind of mini evolution takes place where you have some form of emergent behaviors. I show you here sorry, I don't know where my cursor, what happened to me? Ah, it's here, okay, sorry. We see here a short clip. This is the touch panel where people draw any shape as they like. And then this shape that they have been drawing becomes alive, under apostrophe, and moves around, swims around in the pool very fast. And once it's in the pool, it wants to eat. And eating means killing other creatures, sucking up the energy of the other creatures. And if this succeeds, then the creature has enough energy to mate with another creature. So it has to find another creature, and if that succeeds, they merge together and make a child, and the child looks similar to the parents, but with some genetic mixture and genetic mutation. So we also use, like in nature, mutation as a way to introduce novel features and emergent behaviors. Here just a short shot from the reconstruction that we did for the ZKM, and it's actually, this work is now part of the ZKM collection. And we are quite happy that we could reconstruct this piece from '94. Or here one more shot where you see me playing with the creatures. If I put my hand onto them, then they forget what they wanted to do. They sort of become a bit numb. But if you protect them too long, they also use up their lifetime and they die quickly. So users or participants really have also this sort of responsibility to play and interact and also help the creatures to evolve further. This whole idea of evolution is something that we also exercised in other pieces. Here, for example, a piece from 94, phototropy. Here visitors get a flashlight. I think you see her having a flashlight in the hand. And they can feed artificial insects, a bit like moths or butterflies or different sort of little bees. And if they feed the insects with light, these insects reproduce, they make children. They again inherit the genetic code to the next generation. So you always have some form of evolutionary structure where you never know exactly how the next generation, maybe they are becoming faster and reach the light quicker. But there's always this very playful aspect as well, where the visitors give light to the insects and help them to reproduce. But if they give too much light to the insects, they also kill the insects. So again, this idea, this delicate balance between you as a visitor playing or feeding the artificial life, but also you can also eliminate the artificial life. So we always like this idea of very delicate balance between giving life and taking away life. I think now it's becoming very light here. I hope you still see something. This is a typewriter that became very popular, has also been shown a lot. Maybe here we're talking about media archaeology. When we moved back from Japan, which is a very high-tech country, when we moved back to Austria, we were fascinated by finding a lot of old machines on the flea market, like old radios, old typewriters, basically media archaeological devices. And so we came to this idea of readapting an old typewriter and turn it somehow into a computer by connecting every key of the typewriter to an interface that Laurent constructed. It's hidden inside the machine. And when you type actually physically on the typewriter, you can create real text that is projected on a piece of paper. It's also a real paper, but the paper also moves around with the paper tray, and it has a projection on top. And what happens is you type text, and then the text turns into letters on the screen. But then as soon as you turn the handle of the real typewriter, this text transforms into little spiders that look very abstract, a bit like very simple creatures. So your text actually transforms into animals, artificial animals, that are encoded directly from the ASCII code of the text that you type into the genetic code of the creatures. And what happens is actually quite fascinating. You type your text, it transforms into little spiders. They move around hectically on the piece of paper. I think we have a short sequence here. And at the beginning, you don't really know what's going on, but once you start typing and experimenting, you see that there is actually a logic to it. Because if you write AAA and turn it into a creature, it always looks the same. But if you write something else, the creature looks different. So there is a logic to it, but there is also this idea of randomness, because you don't know exactly when the two creatures or two spiders meet. They make a child, and then the child moves around on the piece of paper as well. And it's definitely a lot of fun and has been extremely popular wherever we show this piece. Then how I'm doing with the time? Let's go a bit faster. This is a work. I have time, yes. This is a work that's technically more simple, but also was quite popular. It's called Portrait on the Fly. It's, this time we didn't really invent any technology. We just used the standard screen with a webcam. But Laurent wrote a very clever software where he has about 10,000 flies that are moving around randomly on the screen. But as soon as someone puts him or herself in front of the screen, the silhouette of the person is being detected by the software. And then the flies, they have a very simple rule. They just want to sit wherever they detect an outline. And by this simple rule, you get quite complex behavior. I'll show you maybe on the video, it's easiest. And the portrait of the person who experiments this is being displayed or recomposed by the flies, but the flies also move around very hectically and go away quickly. So the portrait that you see is always in constant flux and in motion, in movement, and you only see it in this very instant when you keep still for a short moment. And this has also been very popular. We showed it a lot. And I guess also one of the reasons is people really like to see themselves. I think everyone has this sort of selfie culture. But then again, also this idea of a fly that is kind of not so nice, but also fascinating. And I think most people, when you talk to them, they say, oh, I don't like flies. But in this installation, we heard that this idea of the fly is something that sort of triggers quite a lot of maybe deeper emotion about memento mori, life and death. So I think there's a lot of like hidden meaning in the symbol of the fly. Then let's move ahead a bit. Then we had more flies, this time also in more public spaces, and we come from flies to ants quickly. This was in a large media space in Azcuna Centro in Bilbao. We had the good luck to have a very large screen, and people, when they entered the building, they saw themselves in kind of black and white as an image, but they were also being attacked by real computer-generated flies, and eventually they could play and see themselves being followed by huge swarms of flies, which is maybe a bit unpleasant, but at the same time also fun to play with. So here the idea was to also let people experiment and experience interactive art in a very intuitive and very fast and very easy to access way. The same can also be shown inside. This was a shot from the OK Center in Linz, where we had it on a larger LED screens. Actually, here's Susanne Paech. She came to the opening of the retrospective in Linz. Here, maybe one more shot, just to show you how you are being followed by a big swarm of flies, which again had this a bit creepy effect at the beginning, but can also be quite fascinating to experiment and run and improvise with your body. And the last piece I want to show you is Antopolis, where we see a short animation here. We were lucky in 2021, this was 2 weeks between the two lockdowns in Austria. We were lucky to make a very large public display in the Museumsquartier in Vienna and projected on the Leopold Museum, and also had an interactive station where you could place yourself in front of a camera and then see your face being composed of ants, so not flies this time, but ants. And I want to show you, let me see, just here a few images, so maybe we don't need the sound. This is actually Benesta Diga, who was the curator, and I think she knows you well. And what was a very interesting experience for us is if you do these kind of things in public space, you have to deal with a very different attention span, because people are not expecting to see art in public space. So if you want to grab their attention, you have to provide some very kind of fast feedback or make it in a scale so that people understand that they can participate here and eventually also come up to the interactive station and, like you see here, make their own portraits and then project them on the screen. And it was quite beautiful to see also these ants, similar like the ones that we see in the gallery, in the Cortil gallery, crawling around on the facade and basically taking over the whole building. And yesterday Wolfgang asked me, why are you so fascinated with ants or animals? I think it's also, we talked about this a little bit, it's even though they are relatively simple organisms, same like with flies, they do in a collective or in a group have a very complex behavior. So we really like this idea of taking principles from nature, such as maybe swarming behavior or evolution or genetic inheritance, and try to reconstruct it on the computer, of course in a more simplistic and in a more reduced way, but to show this fascination for nature and transport it into an interactive experience. That would be it from my side. This is the book that you mentioned, the MIT Press book. We were very happy and lucky that Peter Weibel for the retrospective really also insisted that we make a good book about it and put all our artworks inside. And we were lucky to publish this with MIT Press 2022. And yeah, here are some more books that we've been doing, Art and Science of Interface and Interaction Design in 2009, I believe. And another book about interface culture, which is the study program that we are running in Linz in Austria. And here an old book from 1998, which was about art and science and bringing together different people like Erkki Hutamo, also Peter Weibel, of course, was there, Wolfgang Strauss, Monika Fleischmann. So this idea of bringing art and science topics together through interactive experiences is something that we still continue to be fascinated about. That would be it from my point of view. Thank you. If there's any question.
Of course,
Mm-hmm.
sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much that you came to
Thank
us.
you so much.
And that we had a chance to have this incredible work of your whole life achievement. So I will ask you, before I ask somebody else, I'm fascinated with technical also achievement of both of you, not only aesthetical. So how you and Laurent did all the technical things. Was there long research? You needed a long time, or is it like experimenting, or how did you do it?
That's a very good question. I have to admit that all the programs are written by Laurent, and also the interfaces are made by Laurent. But when it comes to the conceptual and also, interactive part of deciding how it's presented, how the maybe structure of the interaction is in terms of timing, how to bring it to people. This is something that we do, of course, together, and that's also where my more like sculptural background comes in. So there's a lot of discussion, a lot of development, but Laurent is actually a very genius engineer also, and has been doing this since his early childhood. He learned programming and electronics by himself. So there's like really a very deep understanding of technology on his part.
My observation on couples who do longer term projects is exactly that you need at least two people, two knowledges or two different, and during this together work, you bring this new. And I always said, students, don't think you have to do everything alone.
Yes.
Work with others, work with us, and that would be developed in modern time. It's not anymore painter. Even painters had in 15th century who others were doing for them. So don't think you have to do all alone, although when you do, as you probably, it's also very great. But I'm really admiring your work. So anyway, not to talk, I would ask anybody have comment? Yes, I was sure. Please. Would you like to
Well,
comment?
thank you for this impressive and important, and this is a genuine, I mean, it's 30 years or even more of genuine, what we call media art, which is different from traditional art. Now, one thing is, I somehow regret that yesterday when I was visitor at the Kortil opening of the exhibition, I could not experience the interactive version. I don't know if was this a practical reason because it was too complicated to install.
Yeah.
Financial. Okay,
We
because
didn't have
once
that
it's
before.
only recorded, all the interactive element
Yeah.
gets lost, of course. Okay, but this may be the practical explanation. But the more I'm happy that we learned about it, the interactive. Now, concerning, again, I put myself into the position of the visitor, of the user. Is it necessary, I mean, with all of my admiration, which I could extend but take it for granted, but critical, the user is reduced to an intuitive and itself. People, in lot of so-called interactive media arts since the 1990s, users are exactly what we could see in the Japan exhibition. They intuitively play with something, they smile, they are happy, they make gestures. Humans are subcritically reduced to feedback mechanisms as if they were ends themselves. So,
Of course,
I find
yeah.
this, all the cleverness, what Laurent programs, is behind the diagrams, the models, which you even showed. I mean, you have all this knowledge about genetic algorithms and evolutionary biology, and how this can be programmed or simulated or emulated. And the user is not aware. His ratio, his analytical mind, his or her critical awareness does not take place. So this was always, and the user does not even know, is this artwork, this artificial plant really reacting to what I do, or has it been pre-programmed by you, to what degree? So isn't the user in a way reduced to something less than human? And now that brings me back to Ingeborg's very interesting remark on your work. Isn't there a way to step beyond the separation of conceptual artists on the one hand and computational scientists who programs it on the other hand? Most media art works like that. There are only few artists who do it all themselves. Maybe then again it's one person. But is it that aesthetics and knowledge, technical knowledge, in a way still exclude each other? They can work together, but I'm looking for a more entangled way of having it both. Both on the side of the artistic production and for the user, to make this experience as well, to have an intuitive impression, an aesthetic impression, but at the same time a critical mind, which is challenged. And it's not challenged if the user just plays and smiles when the face turns.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it this way. I understand your point, and of course you can show all the algorithms. You can do live coding. I think especially probably some of you also followed this movement, which sort of died out at one point. But there was this movement of live coding where people, mostly guys, sitting in front of the screen, the audience there, somebody coding live. You see a lot of code, but this was so boring. You know, the audience was not interested. This was maybe a short moment in time when live coding was kind of in, but I mean, the audience, you have to think, audience is not dumb, and it's not reduced to something, but capturing the attention of someone in an exhibition is not as easy as you might think. And sometimes it's easier or better to catch the attention of your audience, and then later through the physical, through the embodied experience, and maybe I didn't talk enough about this, but we're really big fans of embodied experience, that by experiencing something, by touching something, by being somewhere, by being surrounded by something, by seeing the physicality of the objects or the experience, you get a knowledge that is not only verbalized, but it's a bit like a child, a knowledge that goes in your body and that you remember and that makes you think about what have I experienced now. It might have been very fun only, but eventually you start to think like, what did this mean? Why was there the fish in the water? why did they change? Why did they evolve? What does it mean? And eventually you maybe start to, and we had a lot of experience and also discussion with people, eventually they might think about, oh, evolution is fascinating. I didn't even know so much that, you know, the genetic code, of course we know that we are all the product of the genetic exchanges between the parents' generation before us, we know that, but to see it in a mini evolution that you experience right on the fly in the pool by doing it yourself is something different than to just intellectualizing it and say like, oh, I've been reduced to just a user. So I would not be so radical in saying that this is a too reduced version. Maybe intellectuals like you would prefer to have a lot of text written next to it and everything is explained and the algorithms and the formulas and the whole program is also printed out. We could do that, and partly we did it, but honestly nobody is reading this. In an exhibition, people are not interested. I mean, most people don't even read the sign on the wall. So as an artist, you have to find other ways to get people, and I think we've seen it also well with your artwork. You have to use other methods to get people into your story that you want to tell them. And yeah, maybe it's too simple for some people, I agree. But from the feedback that we get and from what people tell us, they still get a lot of things out of it, because we should not forget the power of metaphors, or the power of, you know, images and feelings that are triggered by seeing something. For example, we were by ourselves super surprised that the fly piece was so popular, because it's a very simple program, and Laurent said he wrote it in one day. But then this idea of a fly sitting on your outline apparently triggers something deep in many people that reminds them maybe to something unpleasant, and we don't want flies, we want to get rid of them. And so there's a lot of things, symbols. I think as an artist you work with symbols also. Symbols, feelings, and metaphors. And you sometimes don't need the most complicated technology to trigger those things. And yeah, so that was my defensio.
Unfortunately, this doesn't work, so if somebody would like to say something, please come here. Would you like, please come here? We don't hear you. Please, 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 come here, because, yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah, it was very difficult. First of all, the computers already very difficult to access computers in the first place. We were lucky that we were at Peter Weibel's Institute of New Media. They had some very high-end graphic computers, Silicon Graphics computers, but nobody had a computer by ourselves. We all didn't have a computer ourselves. We could also access these computers only 1 hour a day maximum. So you had to think a lot before you actually do something, to program it and to write the program by hand first and then try it quickly in this 1 hour a day. And, you know, luckily it worked, but it was very difficult. And also for the setup, you know, first of all, the technology was still very hard to access. And also, of course, to get the technology for an exhibition was very difficult. On the other hand, I have to say there was also a very big wow effect back then. I mean, now many people do media art, but back then this was a very small community of people who, it was a very small scene basically. So in that sense, catching attention and, you know, being, making an impact, it was easier in a way because it was very new back then also. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that...
The question is about Japan.
In Japan, yeah, the question is about the media scene in Japan. When we moved there in 94, 95, there was, I mean, the early media art scene was very international already. So we moved around a lot, you know. We exhibited in America, we exhibited in Finland, in Monaco, in lots of places. So it was already very international, but very small. And what maybe the big difference was compared to, say, in Europe, where media art was always being regarded as not real art. We often heard, what you do is nice, but it's not art. Many people, mostly from the art critics and art people from museums, told us right away, this is not art. Be sure this is not art. It's cool, but it's not art. And in Japan, this question never appeared. They always said, like, wow, very cool, wow, innovative. Let's show it, let's do something. So people much more open also in the big museums in Japan. Mm-hmm.
Can you come here, please? Just our
This
mic doesn't work.
This Japanese experience even brings us back to what you call life, the artificial life element, or the living system. Because I think in Japan, like with the Tamagotchis, it was so easy in Japan to have this little seeming like live creatures accepted. Whereas European or Occidental philosophy is very emphatic about what separates life from the artificial and what is the subject and the individuum. But in Asia, we have a different concept of the individuum. It's a weak subject, but in a positive sense. And to see the human body as a machine is less of a problem than in Europe, where with René Descartes, there was always the question that and things like that can never be imitated by a machine. So we have a long tradition in European or Occidental culture, which has big problems even with the term life, to call this life. But I'm fascinated that the openness of Japan for technology, I think, is part of that cultural background, which has not that opposition between the human organism and the machine or even the algorithm. Funny enough now, even in the Occidental cultures, we regard more and more both our biological being as a code, and but this might be an explanation why there was more openness in Japan immediately for this approach.
And talking about Tamagotchi, it's funny because, we showed this evolve in, I think we continued to develop it in Japan in '95. And we were at the research laboratory, ATR research laboratory in Kyoto. So we were at a very lucky position. We were hired as artists to do our artistic research as like researchers, basically. And there was a very strong artificial life community with Shimohara-san, Tom Ray was there, Christopher Langton there. There was lots of conferences also about artificial life, and we were really very involved in this community. And at one point, we had also lots of people visiting from companies to see the installations and the research that we did. And at one point, this Tamagotchi came out. But there was already before a very long, and it was on the media, we have a lot of TV shows in Japan. So there was a lot of background already before this accumulated into the Tamagotchi. So there was a lot of openness also to this playful aspect of artificial life. And like you said, robotics also, like for example, robotics for elderly. It's not a big topic in Japan. People love to have robots for elderly. While here we always were like, oh my God, poor old people, now they have only these robots to take care of them. So there's a very different idea of the artificial.
Maybe just a short word, because you didn't mention it, and I don't know whether it makes a difference for your long artwork with artificial life. Artificial intelligence, would that mean that Japan and China will be in advance with artificial intelligence because they don't have this European problem of always asking, is this what still differentiates human intelligence from machine intelligence, which is part of the European philosophical tradition. Whereas, as you say, there is a more natural openness to this. Would that mean in 20th century Asia will be in advance and we will be too slow because we are too philosophical about it?
Can I give my opinion about that? From my experience of all our exhibitions, since early age media art, not only interactive, that's very interesting. I always said newest generation is then those one not only you who are already maybe 30, but then some who were only 10, when they came to the exhibitions, not only interactive, also media, but especially in interactive, they completely different perceived. And then it's not only playfulness, it's not only joy of, but this is generations which are coming, which will be also maybe in our world, not only in Asia. In Asia, maybe financially, they will support more. Maybe governments or so. But people, this youngest generation, are much better prepared. What is very interesting about media art, that actually media art became like in 19th century photography. It was not perceived as art, as you said, from many museums, for many galleries. And it's not only that they couldn't sell the media art, maybe Ivana would have something to say about that, but also because it's just was not perceived, and also universities didn't teach enough students because professors were not interested in art histories and so on. So it took a long time, and it's still this huge break between what is happening and what is teaching and what is this. And it's amazing how slowly it goes. Photography was in 50s still accepted as not as art, but it was like just handwork. Ivana, can you come here? Yeah. Okay. Okay, time. That's true, our next. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for questions.
It was extremely inspiring. Thank you, Ivana. That's really, we somehow had a little bit more time and suddenly, so, but I'm sure we will put something together. So our next speaker is, I hope he's already Marco. He is, okay, Filip Koludrović. I'm sorry that you had to wait, but I'm sure you had also interest for discussion. So Filip Koludrović is exactly this other generation. Let's see how he perceives things. He is born in Krasica in Croatia in 1996. He has an analog camera with him since early childhood. So, which means this generation who started to use media, whatever it is. At the age of 16, he purchased the first digital camera and began focusing on a black and white photography. Although he initially enrolled in the Faculty of Architecture, his passion for photography ultimately took precedence. In 2022, he received a nomination from the British Fashion Council and as the next generation creative, recognizing his innovative contributions to the industry. In 2023, he self-published a book using a newest artificial technology, sorry, and he said, with the title, "I have never been to America." This is also the work that we can see in exhibition, this book and object, which V magazine, I think, stated pioneering a new field of literature. Since March 2024, he is working as a creative director of Vogue Adria. Best known for his distinctive black and white portraiture, characterized by sharpness and personal touch. His work has been featured in renowned international magazines such as WSJ, Vogue, Numero, and GQ. Notable brands he had collaborated with include with Chanel, Hermes, Gucci, Celine, and Givenchy. this is really amazing. So please, we will have now Filip. Can we also see him here? Or yeah, okay. So Filip, it's your work. Hello.
Yes.
You can start.
Okay. Do you want some kind of questions, or do you want me just to say a little bit about how it came to be, the presentation, or what is kind of the here, I think?
Please tell us about your work, about your about your previous work, about how did you start it. We just read my bad reading, and I think very interesting that how did you start it as a so young child and coming now to the so prominent magazines, but also working as artist and your art project that we could see in the exhibition.
Yeah, I mean, I always had somehow like a camera that was around me, and I think I was always like a very visual person. But also recently I was chatting with a friend and we discussed it from New York also, but he didn't grow up in the city, he grew up also in the kind of like the nature surroundings, so we kind of agreed both of us that I think maybe kids that grow up in a more natural surrounding, I think they have a tendency to maybe dream a little bit more than the kids from the city, because I think also when you're young you need to create these whole worlds that you are playing with, so I think there is a big part of my creativity that came actually from growing up in such a small, I think maybe like 600, 700 people, little village in Croatia. And then it was the camera, and then with time it was just, I think people were always the most interesting to me, because I think like when you point the camera towards a person, something like psychologically happens in them, and then they always become this kind of, not an alter ego themselves, but they kind of switch into this persona that they have, like a camera persona, and that was always like super interesting to me. And I think just with time I realized that like, you know, what they are wearing and how their maybe hair and makeup looks can also, you know, make this photograph go even further, and can give me like a chance to actually kind of maybe create a whole narrative of where the person is and what they are doing and how they are doing it. And then it just became fashion photography, which was not maybe something that I would think of as, you know, like first choice. And then I don't know, like first Vogue, I was really young because I was traveling a lot. I went to architecture, and I quit after 1 year, and my parents were like, okay, at this point, like you wanted to pay for your college, like to put you through, and now for 1 year, you know, we put you through college, but you decided to quit, so now you're on your own, like we don't care, you don't find a job, do whatever you want to do, this was your decision, and stuff like this, which was great for me because it really like pushed me to kind of start. And then I was just like little by little like traveling. I spent maybe like 2-3 years just going around, you know, Europe, like 6-7 days in each city, in each country, and then go. And then 2019, I think I had like 130 flights, so it was like really intense. Going everywhere, and I think I was 21 when I did my first Vogue magazine, and then after that, a lot of really nice things happened. And then I moved to London, and then after London was the pandemic, of course, so I came back. And then I think here also this shift changed because I was back in my village where I grew up. And then after that I moved to Paris. And the moment I came to Paris, I heard some buzz from some people that are in a more tech part of the industry, of the arts. And somebody was mentioning this program that if you write some key words inside, it can create some sort of a visual. And for me, and for my brain was like, I was thinking about this for a few days, and then I really started like getting into it. And this friend sent me that was the first kind of version of DALL-E. That's the ChatGPT OpenAI kind of version of AI. There was also Midjourney and a lot of those, but there was something that, I don't know, like they were not giving such a photographic feeling. And then I moved to Paris, and I didn't leave my house. I was like, you know, really nice area of Paris in Bastille, in this rooftop, like really nice apartment. You see all the roofs of Paris. And I was just in my apartment, like, you know, putting these words, like I didn't care about the outside world. Was a really weird period. And then just at one point, like I started generating more and more, and these people were completely weird, you know, eyes were like on the forehead and the ears were missing, and there was some weird body dysmorphia, and some parts of the body begin and the other parts start that become a tree, and there is a window. It was like everything that you put. And for me it was crazy because for sure what AI generated, you are the owner of the art that you created, and also it makes something that for sure was never before done, which for me was also something that was like, I don't know, like everything I thought I knew was just plus it creates 4 different scenarios of each scene that you are making. So for me, all these combinations were, I was just like, my brain was just throwing up in this screen like constantly, and more and more and more and more. And then at one point I just realized a lot of it was about America, or I don't know for what reason. I just like, when I think I make like maybe like a movie or some scene that I haven't seen, I don't know why I just went to America. So then I like put them all together and I started thinking, what if I did something with this? What if it's an exhibition? But then an exhibition just didn't feel like it's something that really shows. So I decided I think it should be like a putopis. It's like a travel essay book in a way. And it needs to be a book because I think it's such an advanced, it was something that, you know, that was the most advanced thing I've seen and was the user of. So I thought, okay, if it's something so advanced, I need to take it to the oldest possible medium that we can do. And I think that's a book. And then a travel book was interesting to me because with social media and today's time and with all the documentaries, whoever buys, you know, a book that says, you know, Louisiana or Canada, or you buy a book that says, you know, Barcelona, we travel a lot, people, there is social media. If you want to see how Barcelona looks, you go to YouTube, you go to Instagram. So it's very rare that someone is interested how Barcelona looks and they will go to a bookstore and they will say, can I have one book about Barcelona? And then they will come home and then they will read about it. So I just think this medium was really interesting. And then I wanted to make it an analog book. So every one of the images that I created, they all had they finished with an analog photograph. So they would sometimes be 35 millimeter, which is the small roll that we all used when we were kids, and there is the big roll that is 120 millimeter. So every photo that was rendered inside of a book is actually an analog photograph. So at the end, it became like an analog travel book through America, where I'm 18, and I'm actually going on a 3-month trip through America, and my name is still Filip, and I'm still a photographer, and I'm basically documenting my trip that I'm living as going through the States. And then what was really interesting for me is how much it was a perfect chance to do America, because I've never been there in my entire life. Like I've never visited the States. But then, like all of us, I know exactly like how their supermarkets work, how their schools look, what's the university like, what are, you know, the fraternity and all this, you know, how they get into these clans, and how they have like these crazy rush hours, and what they eat and what they drink, and, you know, how New York looks like, and how big cities, and, you know, this Route 66, and how you need to use a car so much, and Central America, Utah, Salt Lake City, you know, all of these things. So I was like, I already feel like I've been there. So I was just in Paris, in one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and I was there for like a month, not leaving my apartment and just Googling like Salt Lake City, and then just seeing how it looks like. And then also going to the bookstores and buying these vintage 70s, 80s travel books through America, which also served as some kind of an inspiration. And I think, yeah, it was just like a perfect country to kind of
give it this AI interpretation. And yeah, it's in 5 chapters, which I thought was like really important for me. Like I love to always do, and I think it felt also more like a movie and more like a book. There needs to be some kind of separations. So the first one is actually the voyage, and I'm taking a ship from Rijeka to New York, because there is a fun fact that actually Rijeka had a direct line with New York, and a lot of like famous people that were going through Europe in New York, some of them were like staying in Rijeka for 4 or 5 days, you know, waiting for the ship. So actually I have my own cabin, and I'm on the ship, and I'm spending, you know, 2 weeks on the ship traveling across the ocean. And the whole first chapter is kind of handwritten, because I also wanted the book not to just be a travel book as per se, but to also be this travel between this humanism to this post-humanism combined with artificial intelligence. So basically, the more we progress through the book, the more it becomes AI written, and the more I'm not hiding the imperfections of AI. So I think in the first 2 chapters, the photos are still a bit picked, the ones where, you know, the eye is not here. But then with time, as the book progresses, you have more and more of these glitches. So you are realizing that there is something in the book that is not actually a photograph, which was really funny, because when I was showing in my village, you know, these older retired people, you know, I was showing them the book without any context, and they were going through it like it's a photo book completely, the first like 70% of the book. And then just at one point, you know, they kind of flip the page and they're looking, but they don't want to ask, because I think for them it's such an abstract concept to even ask, is this something that's computer generated? Of course, they don't know. So like there are all these photographs. Oh, look, this girl, she's so pretty, she's blonde, you know. Oh, look at this house in America, so nice. And they go, but then at one point they're like, you know, someone's eyes have been plucked out, or they're like missing an arm, or they don't have a torso, and they're like looking through and they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you know, they don't know how to react. So basically this was kind of the thought of the book, of the bone, of the spine, what's going to be from the start to the end. And then the second chapter is the real kind of travel, which is where I decided to hide one idealized life in America. So basically, in the second chapter, we start in this primordial cord, and there is a little fetus in the water, and basically it ends up as a kind of these empty beds in the retirement home, which is kind of the end of the life. Like it starts with a beach and it goes through this idealized life. So all the characters that are put in the second chapter, they are by age, from the youngest to the oldest, which is a bit, you know, impossible when you travel, but that's how I did it. And then the third chapter is called the Manifesto. And the Manifesto was, I read the Institution of America and all the human rights that are there. And I took out all the kind of things from the Constitution that just don't make sense in real life, you know, like how all the people have the same, that are the same before the law, but we all know in America, it depends how good is your lawyer. And then some, like a lot of stuff about medical care, and that culture is the highest form of progress in humanity, and we must protect it with everything that we can. I mean, in the countries where this is simply, you know, not the case, sadly. And then what happens in the third chapter, there is like a kind of clap, and the book becomes a negative yin-yang version of itself. So it starts going like a mirror towards the start. So basically, chapter 4 is the mirror of chapter 2, which is the same life in America, but if it happens that it was a negative one in a way, it was not the idealized one. So there is a lot of, you know, drug use and pedophilia and, you know, sex trafficking, sex industry, porno industry, you know, suicide, homelessness, like a lot of things that are sadly, you know, a big problem. Because also I think what we do today is because of the social media, when we travel, if you travel like a person that likes traveling a lot and you want to actually meet the place and the people that you are visiting, with time, you know, that was for me Paris. You come there and everything is perfect, and it doesn't matter how sarcastic you are, you will take a picture of the Eiffel Tower first time you are there, even if you are the most, you know, you will be like, aha, yeah, the Eiffel Tower, and you will take one photo. So this is how we take photographs today when we travel. But I think if you transcend that and you actually meet the people and you feel how the city or the country where you are breathes, you kind of learn the real situation, which is not always just the beautiful things. There is also like a lot of things that are happening there. So I just wanted to show that today's travel book, it should be more aware not to show just the beautiful things, but it also shows all the layers of the society that you are visiting. So that is basically the 4th chapter. And then the 5th is called Death. Is this completely kind of glitched letters. They are hardly readable. It's completely written by AI. And basically it's like the darkest kind of chapter. It starts with, you know, like your morning scene in America. You wake up, you have breakfast, and there is like a milk carton, and there is a portrait of a person that says it's missing. So basically that's how your morning starts. And the whole chapter is in a way the answer to, like, someone is missing, why are they missing? And then you have all the kind of that scenarios, satanic cults and everything that is kind of also sadly represented there. And then what's for me the most fun, actually I think I have it here. What's for me the most fun is, I think that you will appreciate, is at the end, you know, we finish with kind of like a funeral. But what for me is the most amazing part is this index. And again, what I wanted to do with this book is that if you don't know about the book, and it's actually a prop. I'm dealing it like a theater prop. So nowhere in the book it says that it's AI. And if you don't have the context of the book that I just told you, there is a big chance you will never know what the book was about, kind of, in a way. So there is no AI, like no kind of explanation of the book in the book itself. The book itself is like a prop, you know? And what I really like is super interesting is that at the end, we have this index. I mean, it doesn't even say it's an index, but basically, you know, it's an index with the words. And all this book and all the visuals that are inside of it and everything that you see, everything that exists in this book was just made with these words. So these words, I don't know how many, like even not that many, I don't know. They created this whole book. So everything that you see in this book was just these words. No camera, nothing. Just a computer, one website that you had access to, and these words. And they created all this. That was crazy for me. And then we also did, which was really fun, we gave AI to kind of imagine us, how we look. So basically, this is me. Because we just gave the AI our kind of biographies without the year of the birth. So then AI kind of imagined the whole team, what they could look like. So that was super fun. And then also, you know, every American book, they have this type of, you know, like reviews that says like an absolute gem, a gripping expose that peels back the layers of America. So this was more like a bit of a joke, like internally for us, but we created like 5 newspapers that don't exist and then 5 kind of reviews on the book. And yeah, that's the book you've probably seen. And I think what's really also interesting is that, so the book itself, it's kind of inspired by the Bible. So they had this really nice canvas print. But then I thought, you know, there needs to be something. It cannot just be. So I thought, why not the book to be kind of have a green card? So basically, if you want to open the book and if you want to start traveling, you know, to this America, you need a document, and then document can be a green card. So there is like a real kind of card stuck inside of the book. And then what was really fun for me is that I wanted to change the name of the person and their portrait, but then AI doesn't have the concept that it needs to be one person, kind of. So what it did this full kind of Asian looking family and gave them like a family green card so they can all use it together for their travels, which I thought was really fun. And that would shortly mostly be it.
Can you hear me? Yes. Well, thank you very much. It was really enjoyable to listen to you. This is exactly what I thought. Your generation, or maybe you as artist, just started to do something completely new. I have a feeling with such a ease, so easy. You probably needed some time maybe to find out the way through the software. Software is not maybe so complicated, but as an artist, you succeeded to do something still creative, very playful maybe, and still with a lot of meaning. So which means using artificial intelligence in your case as artist or as photographer became a tool to make artist book with a lot of connotations, a lot of ideas that you gave us. That's what I feel. I don't know how others are feeling. It's not really a question, but it's my observation. Is that you would like to add something, or would you like to add something?
I think what you said, it's also a bit about the generation. I think today, I think we are closer and closer to, you know, just having this flow that if you have an idea, it can be materialized a lot faster. It can be materialized a lot faster than it was before. You know, like before you have a painting and there's probably going to, if it's like a big, nice one that you thought a lot about, there's probably going to be like 6 months to, you know, maybe 1-2 years until you finish it. So an idea that you had a year ago, you will probably see then. So I think we are just closer to this singularity. And I mean, it was not also easy, like it was impossible to find a publisher for this book, so I had to like self-publish, which was, I never, like printing today and paper, and if you want it done nice, is like crazy. But also I knew it was kind of a book for the future, so I really wanted to do it because it was really the start of this AI generative photography kind of art. And I see now bookstores are like getting more and more to me because now they are just realizing what it is. So I think but what you said about the generations, I think that your generations, I'm like generalizing, of course, but I think I still believe in this AI. I think we have so many problems that we cannot grasp with our head, the numbers and the solutions that are needed to take care of a lot of things. Like I come from a fashion industry, so when we say that there is, 300 tons of clothes being dropped somewhere, I don't know exactly, but let's say like weekly, whatever. For me, I cannot imagine what's 300 tons of clothes. Is it like one building? Is it a block? Is it a small house? Like, so for us, I think the problems have become so huge that we just need these type of huge brains to kind of help us solve it. And I think we are a generation that doesn't think that we need to suffer to get things. I think that's maybe a bit more also from before. So I think if it's easy, we don't need to run away from it. It just depends how we use it. It's all the context. It's all about the context. It just depends what you give it.
Yes, but I would like to add something very important here, especially from the symposium. This is aesthetics. Are you aware that your aesthetics here are bringing some completely new aesthetics that maybe before it was not acceptable in an artist world, because the distortion of reality that you have used by software of artificial intelligence is bringing a new aesthetic. Is this aesthetics or is this something else? Maybe that's a question for some of you who are not you. Yes, please.
I can say mine and then someone can say, I think that's the fun part, because the algorithm was made to study everything that we as humans ever thought aesthetically pleasing, and is giving it new ways. So for me, it was crazy that every one of these images that you put in some kind of Fibonacci sequence, or you see how it's cut in what shapes, there is always some geometry that is like a painting quality inside of them. So for me, that was even like an extra. I mean, it feels so wrong saying it, but it was even like an extra thing that it's crazy.
We didn't see your fashion photography. Is your fashion photography, I don't talk about myself, but here as a public, is your fashion photography also searching for certain distortions or certain, so which means...
Yeah, there was always this characteristic, and what was with my colleagues that are in the industry as well, and when the book came out, and also photographers and also AI artists, like a lot of them, what really meant to me a lot was one of the, like for me as a photographer, was they were like, we completely see you in every page, and that's a lot that's very hard to maintain today because, you know, it's AI, it does a lot of things, you know, it can be a woman in a red dress in Paris, you know, of course. But I think what was really important for me is that it really looks like I took the photographs. And then it also I started thinking about photography, you know, what makes you a photographer? Like why do you take photos? You know, who are you as a photographer? So at the end, it's again just the context. It's the people that you put in some kind of context in front of your camera. So if you can transcend this into AI, you are still the same source of, yeah.
Anybody else have an opinion? Yes, please. Can you come here, please? Because our battery here, unfortunately, so we cannot use this.
Thank you for your nice presentation. I like your approach. I have a question. Do you see then with this book project more as a curator rather than an artist who makes something, but you see yourself more as a curator who selects images and formats them and, you know, puts them together in a certain kind of choreography? Would you call yourself more in this, or at least with this book, maybe not everywhere, but just
I think with this book you even do it perhaps more than a photographer, because with photography you still kind of document always in a way. I mean, you still put people, but for example here you can say, you know, a group of people from a fraternity took, I don't know, like a small wooden table in front of their Kappa Gamma house, and they put one pledge on the table and they are smudging cake all over him. So for me, it's like you can get into like very specific situations that I think you are more than just curating. I think you are like rendering new realities in a way, like new situations that did or did not happen sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I would. Anybody else? When not, we can. Oh, yeah, please, welcome. We have enough time because I made strange time. We have till 1 o'clock, and you have time.
Yes, fascinating to learn how AI becomes part of creative culture, and it can be fun, and it can be creative, and it can be even self-ironical on the one hand. I don't know, but as a young boy, when you had this photo camera, you still had an idea how this photo camera works, I suppose. Or did you just use it? And nowadays, do you care at all to see how AI comes to its proposals? Or is it just doesn't matter? Is it because this is an intellectual question. This is a proprietary software, Midjourney or others. I mean, this is big companies who own the data, and they employ the mathematicians, and they have all this heavy software. And what is happening inside the AI mechanism which you use? You don't care about to know the tool which you are using? Because most painters still know how to do oil painting and what the linen is, or even early media artists, video artists, they knew the electronics, how a video camera works, and how you change colors and produce surrealistic images. Now the new surrealism, and it's surrealistic Dali-like glitches which are produced by AI. Is it you don't care anymore what is the reason how it does it?
If when we were washing our clothes next to the river, you know, with the soap, we also knew how they are getting washed. But I think a lot of people today don't really know how the washing machine actually works inside, and they could not probably rebuild it or something like this. I mean, at the start, I was more interested in the technical part, and I was, of course, researching how this comes to be and how it is sourcing images and, you know, borrowing little kind of fragments from images and how it is morphing them together. But I think with time, you know, honestly, I was just using the, you know, like a phone, like a digital camera also. I mean, analog camera, I knew how it works. I still know today. I can open it and I can put everything back inside how it is. Yeah. But with the chip camera also, I know in theory, but I would have no idea how to program a chip of a modern mirrorless camera or something like this. So I think,
Yeah, so
you are correct. At the start, I was more interested than I am now.
So I think Ingeborg Philipp was right with her diagnosis that a new generation growing up with a smartphone, where the interface of the smartphone is as big as the smartphone itself, that there is something inside, that there is technology inside, that there is mathematics inside, and all those things that people are not even aware that it's a computer that they are using. It's not a phone. Or it's not a, so that's interesting to see how the relation to technology has shifted, and it's different from the generations before who wanted transparency, critical transparency, had the economics behind, the technological ownership behind. This was all critical questions. Now the new generation is at ease with it. Technology recedes, becomes something as if it was natural, and you use it in a creative way. I think this is an interesting and dramatic shift which takes place. Whether it's critically okay or politically, that's another. Because I think the European mind always wanted to know, to have transparency. And this is, with AI, transparency is completely lost. Almost nobody knows, not even like the washing machine. It's good that you mention it. Your generation before a Gorenje washing machine in Croatia or Slovenia, you knew how to repair it. I mean, I'm driving, I came here with my old car, which is an analog old car, 30 years old, a lot of breakdowns. But if something goes wrong, I know what is going wrong. And I can even try to repair it. Now with the highly electronic cars, which are basically software, even the mechanics don't know exactly. They are not under control anymore. But this desire to know it, to open it, to have it transparent, this has changed. 20th century wanted to make it critically transparent, and maybe 21st century just uses it. Well, I have to think about it. Thank you.
No, but I understand what you're saying because I had that transition. You know, I grew up without a computer, I grew up without a phone, I grew up without the internet. So for me, it was all of these things I had in my early childhood, and the first phone I got when I was, I don't know, like, it was later, like maybe in the 4th grade, so I was like 14, you know. So all of my early childhood, I was opening things I was using. I had maybe like a Nintendo that I could use for 1 hour on the, you know, I had this life as well, and when the first computers came, all the programs, I was cracking them, I knew how to get into the programming, but on my MacBook, I don't know what was the last time I went into stuff, you know. I think it's becoming more intuitive. We just use things, and there is like a pathway that's leading us through technology, and on the side of the people that are not professionals, of course.
Okay, I would like to now have another speaker, but before you are still here, till you're still here, I just would like to tell you, I would be very happy if you find a chance until end of the next week, one of your huge traveling, to travel physically to visit us in Cortil Gallery and see your works and works of other artists. So think about that. Maybe you will have a chance to come. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yes, and thank you very much that you participated with us. And I wish you future with both analog and artificial. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and stay with us, please. We are continuing. Just we will. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so it seems that all Croatian artists are young. Somehow, we never choose age specifically or land, but we somehow, Ivana and I, spontaneously were looking of interesting art. And it happened that Croatians are younger artists. So I will introduce now Antonio Kutleša. Antonio is born in Zagreb in 1993, enrolled in the graduate university study of fine arts in 1915, focusing on printmaking and applied graphics under the guidance of Professor Ines Krasić. In 2018, he graduated with excellence excellent success and was awarded by the Academy Council Award of the Academy of Fine Arts as one of the most successful graduates, earning a title of Master of Fine Arts Education. He actively participated in visual art scene in the field of expanded printmaking. Since 2024, he has been working as an artistic associate in the field of sculpture and the Academy of Fine Arts in Zagreb. So if you would like, did you get your video? Yes? So please join us and looking forward.
Thank you for a nice introduction. I will take this opportunity to talk a little bit more about the work that's exhibited in Kortil and to try to explain the process that I used to create the work and to try to explain the meaning of the title of this work. To do so, I will show you some of my earlier artworks that I, in a way, that influenced the work that's shown in Kortil today. I will start with a work that I did for my master's degree in 2018, and as most of Croatian artists at the time, I used the materials that I was comfortable with. I was studying printmaking, so I was doing most of my ideas through etchings or drawings. At that time, I was interested in the idea of creating, let's say, perfect food, food that's a hybrid between animals and vegetables. And I was doing these etchings of, let's say, possible hybrids. At the same time, I was lucky, my mentor started a new subject in association with Container and their curators that opened a broader field for me to see what's possible and what other artists in different countries are doing in the last 20 years, because at the Academy of Fine Art, most of our subjects show artworks, let's say, we stop at the 90s. So it was really eye-opening for me to see what it's possible. And they pushed me to really try and create those hybrids in real life, to create a food that we could try and see where it goes. I decided to do this for my diploma, but if you can probably imagine, I had a bunch of problems how to do it. So I decided to focus mainly on two problems and focus my diploma on, let's say, finding a solution to them. One was how to transform a two-dimensional etching into a three-dimensional object, and the other was how to do it in a different material, how to model it not using traditional materials. And while I was researching this, I found 3D printing. It mainly got rid of one of the problems, that was the material, and the other was still remained, because with 3D modeling you still need to create a model in a 3D modeling software. And I had a limited time of, let's say, 8 months to do this work. So I decided to, at that time, 3D modeling programs were, at least for me who just started learning about them, were a little bit too complex. So I decided to stay in my safe zone. That was drawing and the use of Photoshop. So at that time, I was getting deeper in the learning how a 3D printer works. Most of you probably already know. to 3D print some object, you need to have a model, and you import that model into a slicer that literally sliced your model into thin pieces, individual layers, and the printer prints every layer individual, placing another one on top, creating the whole model. I used this principle of how a 3D printer works to create my own way of 3D modeling individuals models by taking my drawing and imagining it as a 3D model. I started then creating individual layers, drawing them in Photoshop until I got every single layer that I needed to create in the end a whole 3D model. I told you earlier that at that time the softwares were a little bit too complex, but the manufacturer saw this need for easier programs and created a program called Tinkercad that was mainly based to target elementary schools. Simple project that gives you the opportunity to play with, let's say, Lego bricks. You have programmed shapes that you can use and stick together. But I use this program because it has a different type of possibility to import the drawings you saw earlier as individual layers. And if you stack everything on top of each other, you get the whole model. This was in the end, the idea for my master's degree, but as the time goes by, I learned that I wouldn't be able to create everything that I wanted to do at the time. So I changed my idea and started to make simpler shapes for the idea of creating the real food. Yes. In the end, there still wasn't enough to meet the deadline, so I decided to abandon this project of creating for now eatable food, and I decided to change the main topic to modular body. For the work, I created a human skeleton in a 3D program software, and in the end, for diploma, I printed this body in an actual size of the human. But later, after my diploma, I wasn't happy that I managed to transform two-dimensional drawings into 3D by using plastic. So later I decided to do another work called DIY 3D printer, in which I tried to create a tutorial for the users to turn a normal paper printer into a 3D printer, using the simple idea of creating your own layers. You already saw earlier, some of the software gives you the opportunity to visualize every single layer. By doing that, you can print out every single layer and by hand cut it out and glue them together to get a whole object. While I was doing this, I found the time to really create the eatable food. In 2020, I created a work called Meat Flour, where I managed to grow tomatoes that had different flavors added to them. I was growing them hydroponically, slowly adding a special mixture of different tastes, and the flour managed to pick them up and add it to their own taste. To make the transformation of the tomato whole, I even used the original part of my diploma work to create shapes molds in which the flower, the fruit was growing. In the end, I even managed to change the original texture and the taste of the tomato. And that brings us to the exhibition that you can see in Kortul, Flowers That Have Not Bloomed, is the title of the exhibition because I decided to go back to the starting point. In the beginning, I wanted to transform two-dimensional etchings into three-dimensional, but without, how to say it, I didn't want to change the material. I wanted to stay in the field of etchings and print banking to create a complete three-dimensional object with the help of traditional and modern technology. So again, I had a two-dimensional image that was the starting point, and with the help of 3D printers, I created plates for printing that with the process got, you know what a blind press is. You are pressing, you are trying to get the shape of the plate you are using. So you don't have a visual color print, you only have one, you only get the shape. Did you try the coin trick? You're using, place a coin around the paper, and when you're going with your pen across it, you can make imprint. That's the same, but without the color. I managed to get whole images, whole sculptures with the process of 3D printing and traditional printing. And later, I even managed to place the whole etching on the 3D object that I got using that blind press process. Yeah. And that's it for now. Later, I decided, as I got a 3D object of the original work, I decided to use it as, let's say, a motif, because as I transformed it to a 2D image into a 3D, I got the opportunity to rotate it 360 in the view. So I found a new, let's say, how to say it, visualized points that I used to create a new plate and reproduce the original 2D image in a different way. Yeah. It wasn't the best explanation, but you can ask me. Yeah.
So the 3D sculpture was from the paper, not
yeah.
from the print. Oh, okay.
Is the paper? Yeah, it was a relief press. Yeah. So it was. I used fine paper that got wet for 6 hours to a little bit disintegrate the glue in it to get a perfect print from it. No, the etching was applied first before on the paper and then later again on the 3D object. Yep.
Can you explain me again what you did with the plant and the tomato? This
Okay.
Could you go back to
Yeah.
the slides? What did you do with the tomatoes?
So yeah.
These are real tomatoes.
Those are real tomatoes that we were trying to grow them so that they would be ready to try them on the exhibition. But the exhibition was in, let's say, bunker. So we needed to have a big source of light. but we couldn't have that, so everything was delayed. We tried this before the exhibition, and we managed to grow tomatoes and change their texture and taste. We added, I added the taste of chicken, and in this one, the taste of strawberry to them.
How did you do that? Putting it in the water?
Yeah, that was not really. It was a mixture of minerals, flavors, yeah, a special mixture that I slowly developed by experimenting. How much? Yeah, this for the exhibition, there's a difference of possibilities to grow them in the water. One is called hydroponic. It uses water that's continuously circulating, and it's pushed with air to get the minerals to the roots of the flower. We started this project in this hydroponic system, but later for the exhibition it was placed in those clear tubes, yeah, just for the style.
And did you harvest some tomatoes?
Yes.
Did they taste like?
Yes, yes, they did. For the experiment, I used the cherry tomatoes, the small ones. But later, for the exhibition, we tried to make the normal tomatoes, and yeah, they stayed at the green phase because we didn't have enough sunlight. The exhibition was a group exhibition, and next to my work was, you know, the work Cosmopolitan Chicken. Cosmopolitan Chicken, when I forgot the name of the artist, he was breeding chickens from all around the world, trying to make the ultimate chicken that has all the genes of every chicken in the world. And my lamp didn't go so well with the chickens because they couldn't sleep, so we need to make a compromise. 12 hours of sleep, 12 hours of my light, but in the last phase of the growth, the flowers need 24 hours of the light, yeah, sunlight. So it was like, okay, this is the phase, and they stay there. I tried 1 year later at home, and I managed to grow again cherry tomatoes with the taste. It's simple. The first one was, you maybe found it on the internet, how to change the color of white roses. Most of the plants are taking water through their roots and evenly circulating through the whole plant. And if you put a little bit of dye, you can change the color of the plant. The same was here. So in exchange of the dye, I used a little, the perfect amount of the flavor. Because if you put the flavor too early, you kill the plant. So it was the right, I needed to find the right amount of everything. Yeah, yeah. It's the fifth was right, the fifth try.
In a way, that reminds me of the difference between analog computer and digital computer.
Yeah.
Because here you did not program, but you patched, you physically patched things together. Yeah. Like in an analog modular synthesizer, you produce sounds by having electric devices which you, by cables, you patch them, you distort them. So that it's not, no mathematics, it's no programming, no digital code in it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Is it a counter-reaction against all this digitization of art?
Well, I didn't hear you, sorry.
Did you have, I mean, of not using computer for this?
No, it was, no, not really. It was just it's funny. I started this, let's see what I could get. And the curators of Container were like, 1 year later, okay, we have an exhibition, in which phase are you? So from there, I needed to step up and produce something. And then it was, okay, let's see how much I can on my own do. This work was right after my diploma, so I didn't have the connections to try to use something different. Later for the work I did for the Zagreb youth salon, I started to work with other people to create like the work called iFood, where I tried to use my own body to feed, in the end, my own food. So, yeah.
How did you do it?
I used blood as a substitute for some amount of proteins and water, and with the help of a surgeon, I removed a part of my own body, of my skin, to feed grasshoppers. Yeah, I managed to feed 2 cycles of grasshoppers, and then I pack them in small, let's say, packages to give to the people as food. Yeah.
This is fantastic, because you should talk to the scientists who are really, now it's very famous. They are looking for new ways of surviving with the food which is not meat, which is not animals, and so on. And I'm sure what happened to me, for example, when I was at MIT, not at Harvard, they were looking for us who were like creative to bring them ideas what actually they should do. And you are actually giving kind of, maybe there is something happening, but you as a creative artist are actually bringing ideas what maybe will save future society to feed yourself. I think grasshopper, I find it great, together with your ants and flies. We are coming actually to some kind of bio-art, in a sense that it's really bringing not only art, but art and technology in a sense that makes sense. That makes really sense. Also experience with taste. Maybe you can bring different taste through your experience. But also when we are looking at that and experience, we are also experience your taste and feeling and looking at that and so on. So, well, thank you so much. That's really great. Thank you very much. And I would close this early session now because we will have a lunch break. Maybe we can put just some photo of our manifestation, and we will meet at 2 o'clock. And I hope those who are on Zoom will have also the lunch break. Okay, thank you very much, and see you soon. So we are now after beautiful lunch break in Rijeka. You can see it's fantastic weather, which is not very good, unfortunately, for this screen. It used to be possibility to make it darker, but I think the most important is to hear and at least a little bit hear from our next speaker. So again, as I said, young Croatian artist, Branimir Štivić, born in Cerić, 1991, graduated in New Media from Academy of Fine Arts in Zagreb, 2021, and Information and Software Engineer from the Engineering from the Faculty of Organization and Informatics in Varaždin, very well-known university in Zagreb, in Croatia, 2015. In his artistic work, he engages his sound and light installations, audiovisual performances, live film, expanded cinema performances, programmed art, artificial intelligence, and sound for contemporary dance. He predominantly starts from sound using technology and programming code as the main medium in recent works for the multidisciplinary approach for researching the mediality of air, breathing, wind, pneumatics, soil, LED technology, physicality of pixels, lost footage, neural synthesis, animism, and the vitality of object and matter in the age of the technosphere and the Anthropocene. I'm impressed. Sounds fantastic. Looking forward to hear your lecture.
Thank you.
Wonderful exhibition piece in our exhibition in Cortil.
Thank you for introduction. I will start with the previous works that are closely related to this work that I exhibited at Gallery Cortil, Geo for Dwell. 3 or 4 years ago, I started with working with the LED technology and LED screens. Some large LED billboard have fallen from the wind into the sea, and then I collected on the ferry port. I collected a few pieces from the shore. Then I tried to assemble it and revive it, and the idea of working with LED technology came from there. So I got funding from GMK Zagreb gallery, and I started ordering stuff from China, from AliExpress, because I'm buying most of my materials from there because it's consumer electronics, so cheap and so fast to get it. And I started to building the large LED screens from these small 20 centimeters parts, and parallel to this, trying to learn how to connect it with Chinese software, with like closed technology. It is their FPGA cards with limited portability and programs to work with. So I managed to build the LED screen like half meter by 4 meter long, and my main point of interest in this production of artwork was thinking about the work that is inside this artwork, from other people, like micro work, like workers in factory that are doing on a production just one screw, or soldering just one chip, and all the postmen that are bringing the packets from abroad, and workers in sorting centers in Asia, organizing the packets, the shipment for the boat or for the plane. And the idea was to transfer the work from a worker in a factory to the artwork itself, and to work with physicality of pixel, to somehow try to convince the observers or the gallery visitors to think about, and the artists to think about the physicality of their work. If somebody is working with videography or photos, to think about the representation and what is the price of showing their work on technology today. And the implications of using technology in the galleries, that it's not just a USB stick and some WeTransfer folder or something, that TV screen or projector was produced somewhere, that the mining for the materials for the chips and for the conductors that those like materials were mined in questionable conditions with the overworked hours and with the young children doing mining, and whole the idea of like hidden work in using technology and the implications of on ecology and transportation from China to Europe, and war between different countries, economical war between different countries. So from there I started to expanding the work on some different ideas, to working with the physicality of pixel. This one work called Land was a dystopian story about last pieces of land on Earth because of ecological catastrophe. The whole planet was drowned in ocean, so only few satellite islands left with the floating artifacts from previous civilizations. It was mostly plastic and stuff that I found on the shore, and it was a representation of the lead screen that I found in the sea. I exhibited it in Pula this year, and this one work called Dot Work, I was doing more graphical stuff, more new tendency stuff like ambient light, LED technology, and graphic art. But I was thinking about, because it was in Novigrad, in the old core of the city, in the stone like buildings and really old monuments. I was thinking about light pollution and using the LED billboards and like new LED commercials in all city centers and the streets, and implication of light pollution in the cities on the coast. And this new work, I started working with, I got interested in the bark beetles and insects that live beneath the bark, because I found them in woods. I was walking through the woods and trying to find some signs that I saw before. A few years ago on one island, I found this branch with hieroglyphs or some writings on it, and I didn't know what it was. I bring it home, and after a few months I did research and found out that it was one beetle that is eating the wood and leaving its marks. So I got interested of idea of leaving some writings, or I call it a semic writing of the like living bugs, and I got interested in idea of reproducing those kind of artifacts into some more solid and more durable materials. So for this project I built a CNC machine to mill the plywood and aluminum sheets, and I tried to experiment with different layers of plywood to get different shadings for those artifacts. Firstly I was planning to use AI to build a model to make from it some artificial patterns, some artificial writings, but then I switched to different type of technique to make L systems, generative stuff, because it seems at first it seems that if I put enough pictures of bark beetles that I could get some usable results, but maybe this is not the right tool or right technology for that thing that I needed. So I switched more to generative computer stuff like L systems and vector graphics. I translated those patterns from the trees to 2D vector graphics, and then I switched it to 3D graphics, and from there I 3D printed it, cut it in a plywood, and make like 2D sculptures from it, from brass. This is the process of cutting it. I like the idea of eating the wood with man-made machines, and the translation of bugs eating the wood and living inside the wood and reproducing inside of it, and the replication of that kind of similar process with the same writings with the machine and man-made industrial materials like plywood and MDF and that kind of board for making kitchens or interiors. Okay. Yeah, the reason that I started working with the bark beetles is I like to work with cycles in nature and the implication of human actions and technology on nature, and trying to raise awareness about like our implications of using technology. In this case of bark beetles, it is there are not problems because they are composting the old dead trees that have fallen, but because of global warming and because of the use of fuels, there is a present situation of they're spreading uncontrollably in our woods, because the winters are not so cold that were before, and they're spreading more, attacking the trees that are still healthy. And there are some few theories that trees, especially pine trees, that are with their resin, that are communicating with each other because the resin is their defense. And bark beetles have large antennas, like that they can sense the smell of the resin inside the trees. So there is one theory that trees with their resin that can communicate with each other, and they can raise their defense with the resin. But because of the pollution and with the smog, the communication is not going really well. So people are now trying to put the traps for the bark beetles with the chemical stuff inside to somehow manage their spreading between the healthy trees. Yeah, this is in a short, this is my project that I worked on. Okay, do you have some questions?
Well, thank you very much, first of all. It's very interesting.
Oh, sorry.
And just stay here shortly. So maybe somebody have a question before so please, will you come here to ask him so that we hear on?
Yeah, thank you for a nice project. I saw now, my question was, do you also display the wood cuts in the gallery?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you have different types of experiments that you then show in a series together, but you can also sometimes just show one instance, no? So it's my...
Yeah, in this piece, in Cortila, I showed this work is more technological based, and I'm showing the process of cutting it and using the machine for cutting it. But in this work in Pula, I exhibited the brass like plates intended for printing, and aluminium plates and more 3D stuff. It's not
And
showing.
then these are the wood plates, no?
Yeah, I have it here.
And do you also display them next to the original bark that
No,
inspired you?
I was intended, but the problem is because the original bark, I didn't know that they can have still eggs inside, so I have infestation at home. It's not good for spreading the insects, you know. I need to somehow, I decided not to use the original bark in exhibitions for that reason. I only 3D scan them and vectorize them. I cook them so I can somehow prevent the infestation, but I didn't use them in a final exhibits. Yeah.
Not really a question, just a comment about fine communication
Mm-hmm.
and the smart that might impede it. Most of such communication that you mentioned is usually done via the mycelial network. which is
Beneath.
underground,
Mm-hmm.
not so susceptible to smog.
How? So it's not based on the, but this research was based on communication between the insects, because the male insect and the female insect, when the one of them goes beneath the bark, they start sending chemical signals for other insects that this tree is good. I know. It's somehow the work is limited. The research was still, I think, not fully done, but there were some maybe implications of quality of air and the spreading of the insects. But yeah, the mycelium and underground is probably the route that is going the communication. Yeah, thank you for the remark.
Okay, very, very nice. I think maybe we can have a further discussion tomorrow on our artist talk. So if anybody have more questions, I would like to put it tomorrow more in our relaxed situation. Because of our meal, we were a little bit late, and I think Małgorzata, Marco is Małgorzata already waiting for us, and then we will continue tomorrow. But we experienced quite good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't see I don't see Małgorzata, but I know her very well. I was just recently invited by her to the festival that she's organizing in Legnica near Wrocław. But she is a professor in Wrocław, artist, as I said, and I would like to read about her short CV. Graduated at Institute of Audiovisual Arts at the Jagiellonian, I hope really pronounced, University, MA Studies, and Institute of Cultural Studies at the University of Wrocław, PhD. She teaches new media art and aesthetics at the University of Wrocław, SWPS University and the Academy of the Arts in Wrocław, PhD also. PhD Assistant Professor, Institute of Cultural Studies, University of Wrocław, Media Art Department, and Eugenius Geppert Academy of Art and Design in Wrocław. She is a main curator of Intermediale Festival in Legnica and co-founder of the INRE, better to say, a group delivering audiovisual stage performances, installations, and projects about sound and image. Also visual artist and VJ, performer experimenting in the field of sound art, curator and performance projects. Her research interests focus on the connection between art and new technologies, the issue of liveliness and multimedia performances, and the influence on audiovisuality and development of performance arts. I would like to add my experience meeting Małgorzata now, I think it's exactly 2 years ago in Venice on a big festival resource where she gave a talk, and after that we continue our very interesting talk, our communication, and until I was recently in Legnica, so I experienced her curatorship with the festival that she organized. That it was a lot of glitch art, which is very popular today, but she also proposed a program of Kotkowski artist that I mentioned in the beginning. So I suppose she will talk about that, but I also saw her and she's also Dancewicz Pawlik, I didn't say Małgorzata Dancewicz Pawlik, with her partner Pawlik, a fantastic audiovisual performance. So I think she is really multimedia artist in the sense of art and theory and history, and a fantastic person. So Małgorzata, you have your word, and we are very much looking forward.
Thank you very much. Am I well heard and seen? Yes?
Very much, very good.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I don't hear you.
We hear you very, very good.
Okay, but I have some problems with the presentation because I am not the host, and the host should allow me to spread my PDF with some photos and documentation of Stan Ostoja-Kotkowski work. Could I ask for that? First of all, thank you for the invitation, Ingeborg, and for so nice introduction. And I'm trying to, okay. Please give me 1 second. Okay, so I hope that you see my presentation now. What I wanted to speak about today is not my artistic work, but rather my curatorial work, because it will be a little bit about Polish artist Stan Ostoja-Kotkowski, and the exhibition that you have seen at the gallery, I think so, that you've seen that, concerns a kind of tribute to Stan Ostoja-Kotkowski. And I'd like to present you this project, curated this year's at Video Synthesis exhibition, a project that concerns this artist, and I'd like to use this opportunity to speak a little about the art of Stan, and about himself. So I've placed here a few quotes on the slide, not dates, although the dates and the brief outline of the biography are very important. Stanisław Ostoja-Kotkowski was born in Poland, in Golub, on December 22, 1922, descending from an old noble family that was a part of the clan of Ostoja, so Ostoja House, as the son of Stefan and Jadwiga, and he was related to Witold Gombrowicz, what is very important for Polish people, because this is one of the great contemporary Polish writers. So he was related to him, and by mother Antonina, and the writer's grandfather and the artist's great-grandfather were his own brothers. So in 1937, Kotkowski family moved to Przasnysz, where his father became a bank director. And Ostoja completed high school there and received his secondary school diploma. During the war and occupancy, he and his family remained always in Przasnysz, and his father was taken to an OFLAG, prison for officers, and the young Stanisław in the years 1939-1945 worked to support his family, mother and sister. He worked in construction company, a locksmith's workshop, and as a driver for the German doctor. He was active in the resistance movement, transporting conspirational materials, and in his spare time he studied painting and drawings with Przasnysz artist Olgierd Wetesko. So Przasnysz was his hometown. I will show you now some pieces of him from the historical museum. And here in Poland, in the Historical Museum of the city of Przasnysz, is located a collection of his works, mainly documentation of works and photographs. As you can see on the slide, he was a very eclectic painter, fascinated by many artistic movements and influences. And here you can see one of the computer graphics from the collection of Zachęta National Gallery of Art in Poland. Kotkowski was captured by the Germans at the end of the war, but he managed to get out and ended up in American occupied German zone. He was able to study painting at the Academy of Fine Arts in Düsseldorf from 1945 to 1949, thanks to his love of art and fluency in German. After graduating in late 1949, Kotkowski emigrated to Australia, and at the beginning he worked as a manual laborer, making sandwiches and painting house facades. At all this time, his passion to art allowed him to continue education. He was studying at the School of Art at the Victorian Art Centre, and Australia was not only a place to live for him, but an object of his big fascinations. As his biographers, including Agnieszka and Krzysztof Gadomscy in Poland, but first of all Stephen Jones in Australia, who knew the artist and wrote a lot about his art, prove his adventure with light and colors began when he went on expeditions to the desert. And here he observes different light phenomena. Kotkowski said, "The terrific iridescence you can get behind the ice in Central Australia forces you to think of the source of light, whether it's beam, lantern, or sun, and to think of it as the most impressive, most flexible, and richest tool imaginable for an artist, the life-giving source. Why couldn't a painting change its shape, form, and color? It seemed to me that you could achieve this by using light as a tool, and that the closest thing to the source of light we knew and can handle confidently is electronics." As Kotkowski pointed out, the most intense feeling of light was especially in the interior of the country, in the desert, where light seems to be alive. A stone that is certainly known to be white may appear orange in the morning and purple-pink in the evening. The indigenous people describe desert dust in the rays of the seeing suns as red hell. And for Kotkowski, lasers was the closest to the experience of the light he had in Australian desert. Referring to this experience, he argued that the relation of sound to color is primordial, not technological, giving the example of Polynesian who said he heard the color of brown. According to Kotkowski, synesthesia is not a matter of advanced technology, but of instinct and natural human abilities. The task that Ostoja set for himself was to make the recipient aware of this fact, showing this to other people. Seeing shapes produces in my mind kinetic shapes and vice versa, as Stan points. Stephen Jones, referring to that statement, points that the creation of visual music, a sort of pictorial equivalent to the experimental music of the time, was one of the main concepts underlying a lot of video experimentations at 60s. As Stephen Jones quotes Stans, lasers give a much clearer and more extinct light than do normal incandescent bulb. No matter how beautiful one paints a sunset, It will not be as beautiful as the light of the real sunset, but the light of laser can give the radiance and brilliance that paints cannot. In terms of using the medium, Kotkowski was a forerunner in using many new technologies. He was always searching, interested in painting, artistic photography, stained glass windows using bas-reliefs, optic collages, glazed ceramics, and jade. He has his first solo exhibition in 1955 at the Royal Society of Art, South Australia. It included abstract paintings made with synthetic polymer paints year before the medium was introduced into general use. Stephen Jones writes that in early 60s, looking for the new ways of expression in order to create almost sculpture-like shapes on the screen, Kotkowski convinced Malcolm Kane, an engineer at the Philips research laboratories in Hendon, South Australia, to construct for him a device that could change the deflection's waveforms and consequently the electromagnetic fields propelling the electron beam in the TV picture tube. It was in 1962, so somewhere in between the figure animation precursors of the Scanimate and Paech's more activate magnetic manipulations on the TV raster in Magnet TV project. So Kotkowski has created out projects with dancers, choreographers, and musicians. The first use of quadraphonic sound and the first demonstration of chromasonics were performed at the first sound and image event Orpheus in Australia in 1960. Chromasonics was the term for the synesthetic mixing of sound and light using technologies that analyze the sound to control the switching and dimming of light and of lasers. The artist received a Churchill Scholarship in 1967 in the United States, and here he came across a laser. He recognized an opportunity to use it as art. He created stage sets and decorations for theater and opera productions using lasers, and he used lasers to translate the most famous pieces of music by Bach, Ravel, Strauss, and Vangelis onto images. In 1971, Ostoja was awarded an Australian National University Creative Art Fellowship, and the ANUS Research School of Physical Science workshop with aid of Terry McGee, an electronic technician, Stan created a new set of sound-to-light devices, the laser chromasons. It was composed by 2 small helium neon lasers, as well as 6 lamps of various colors, housed in 60 centimeter sphere of translucent perspex. In the base of the device, inputs from microphone, a synthesizer, or tape recorder were divided up with a set of filters and then assigned to circuits that controlled the brightness of the lamps whose light was reflected from rotating wavy mirrors. Kotkowski traveled to the United States also in 1973 on a scholarship from the Austrian American Education Association to work on laser technology and art. During his 1.5-year tenure, a 30-meter chromasonic tower with a chromasonic laser were designed and built, and the world premiere of the concert Synchronos had place there. Sound was automatically converted into color and shape by the chromasonic laser, so chrono as a color and son like a sound. It was probably the first laser ever used for the artistic purposes at this time. It was also very inspired by the interactivity in art and active viewer-listener participation. In 1973, together with Philips engineer, he built PEET, Philips Electronic Telecommunication Equipment, constructed in a form of imaginary spaceman, flashing light on his face by responding to external sounds, colors, lights, and rhythms. Another example of his interactive work is a set of enamel, a composition made up of 24 enamel plates at the University of Melbourne, and him planted a theremin enamel in one of them. When the steel mirror came into contact with the human body, it made music. The distance at which a person approaches the gadget determined the sound speech. In 19 1991, he traveled to Europe, Poland, and Przasnysz, where his mother lived and managed a library, for the first time following the war. Then he took part in an exhibition titled Jesteśmy, what means we are, consisted of the most famous Polish visual artists working abroad. The artist presented then also a laser light workshop entitled Synchronous 91 at the National Philharmonic in Warsaw, and classes were so popular that were extended by several days. He died on April 2, 1994, and he was buried at Powązki Cemetery, a historic necropolis located in Warsaw, the burial place of many distinguished individuals from Polish history and culture. What about the preservation of his work? Approximately 800 of 3.5-inch floppy disks made by him between 1988 and 1994 are parts of the extensive collections of materials about his work that is housed in the State Library of South Australia. Stan was a leader in the digital arts, and his archive has been added to the UNESCO memory of the world's Australian historical significance. This year, at the Videosynthesis exhibition, which is a part of the Intermediale Festival and is happening in Biennale of Formula for the third time, we included a section honoring Stan Ostoja-Kotkowski. Stan worked with electronic images his whole artistic career. He modified television to generate electronic paintings and integrated image with sound, repeating that in his art he wanted to free imagination from the impediments of traditional media. And this year commemorates the 30th anniversary of both Stan Ostoja-Kotkowski passing and Intermediale beginning, which is the overall body for the Videosynthesis exhibition. And we invited to give Ostoja some attention in relation to this occasion. From both Polish and international perspective, we wanted to do this part of the exhibition. So that is how Tribute to Stan came to be. We wrote an invitation to 6 artists to contribute nowadays to his project of media art. And works you saw at the gallery include the following artists: Debora Bernagozzi, NiemmansLand Group, Alberto Novello, Krzysztof Pawlik, and Kitian and Eric Lennartson. So summarizing, at the first glance, without further and deeper studies, Stan's using of technology was not so critical like other new media projects from that time. For example, 9 Evenings, which was heavily rooted in the anti-Vietnam War protests, or the works of Jasia Reinhardt's In the Frame of Cybernetic Serendipity exhibition, which pointed to the affirmative role of technology in its cybernetic meanings. Instead, it was very formalistic, and I understand here formalism as the study of art based only on an examination of its form or how it's created and appears, with concentration on purely audiovisual elements, characteristic of color, form, line, and composition, both in sound and image, and on its mutual interactions. To break this first impression, in this context, important topic in Stan for me, in Stan interests, was the fascination and respect for the Aboriginal culture. The common traits of immigrants and First Nation topics are historically exceptionally interesting. And Stephen Jones recalls that Stan Ostoja-Kotkowski's most ambitious sound and image project was his presentation of Time Riders at Perth Festival in 1970, followed by Adelaide and other cities. And Time Riders explored Aboriginal Dreamtime mythology using film, slide projectors with dissolves and filters, effects, and Australian music and dance. So for me, starting point, because it's the project that has already started, for me, starting point for deepening the research is to find what meanings are hidden under the use of technology in Stan Ostoja-Kotkowski works, what epistemologies are created by his lasers, and what relations to the outside artwork it had. However, looking in this direction, it must be emphasized that even kinetic art itself was considered to influence reality because it influenced the viewer, creating a world of art in process. And as Jones emphasizes after Frank Popper, light art is an art which acts and transforms the environment just by the art, by the light that is moving. So that's what I wanted to say about Stan Ostoja-Kotkowski, and I hope that it will be a project that will have some continuation in the future. I cannot find my Zoom window, but I hope that...
Marco, can you do something? Okay, now we see you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Małgorzata. It's so pity you couldn't come because we have wonderful space for this collection of tribute to Stan, and it really fits very good with all these other artists that we are showing, dealing with art and technology and artificial intelligence. And I found it extremely, for me, interesting that we are showing somebody who came from another world, from another aesthetics, and from another, but so early already using technology as mean of expression and experiment. And also I said that light is one of the major part, besides, of course, as he did also with sound, for media art. And as far as I know from what you told me, he is undiscovered. He's not well known yet enough by work that he did. And actually we came first time to talk about him because of this International Day of Light, but unfortunately we couldn't get his works. It's very hard to get from Australia acceptance. So when I was invited by Małgorzata, by you, to be a jury member for the festival this year, I experienced also all this art that was devoted to him, and it is so modern connection, you know, what he did and what artists are doing today. There is so many connections. It's not so far away, and in our exhibition you can see those tributes of the other artists. So I found it this tradition and old and new somehow is getting to this turn as not being far away. So it's excellent to know about his work, and that you gave us more insights about his life and work. So fantastic. And one question before we open to other questions. You said you have your students. Are they somewhere there around or not?
Yes, they are on Zoom.
On Zoom, okay. Maybe they have something to say as well. I would ask if somebody would like to say from the students, or somebody here would like to give a comment. We have also
from students' perspective, or maybe from Polish perspective, because it's particular Polish in some kind of view, because he is unknown in Poland, really. So we hope to discover his person and his art, and by doing this tribute, I hope that it will go in some way that we will develop the project. And I think also that it has some important meaning from synchronic and diachronic point of view at the media art history. Yes, because I see very traits in common in his art, but contrary and on the opposite, what for the aesthetics, like was mentioned in the first paper by Professor Ernst, because this is the aesthetics that emphasize the aesthetic feelings of the receiver. So I think that this is different point of view.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Okay, wonderful. I'm so happy that at least we got you here on Zoom. I hope next time you will come personally, maybe with your performance, which we spoke about. And
very much for the invitation.
And with your partner, maybe next year in Astronomy Center or something. We have to plan. So there is another question, so please excuse me. Can you come, media theorist, famous one, and he has a question. Or
yeah, well, thank you first of all for making me know about this fascinating media artist from Poland whom I wasn't aware of, and it seems to fit so perfectly, as Ingeborg says, into the long history of cybernetic art and early media art. Fascinating to know this as well. One point, you know, I tend to ask critical questions after that. The discovery of laser technology as the medium which could turn the ideas into creative usage. Now, the laser technology is nothing specifically Polish, it's part of technology. And technology has its own rules. And at some parts of time and some parts of the world, the same technology almost invites humans to work with it. So where is the agency? Is it this fascinating character whom you described, the human individuum, or is it rather technology itself, which at any point of time or part of the world invites humans to develop its potentialities? But then I see a certain nostalgia combining Aboriginal art and awareness of colors in Australia, and finally seeing the laser technology who allows to continue this. Isn't this a nostalgia for trying to reconcile highly advanced technology with early cultural practices? The Aboriginal mythology, I'm not a specialist about it, would never result in constructing a laser, which is the condition of possibility for building artistic metaphors. So media archaeology is more aware in the tradition of Michel Foucault to say, where are the ruptures, the discontinuities? Where is something new happening, which separates us from traditional cultural idea of synesthesia and color and light and sound? The technology itself is the agency, and that makes it almost impossible to retranslate it back into traditional culture or even traditional nature. I see a lot of, even here in the exhibition, a lot of desire to reconcile nature or biology, Aboriginal culture, to reconcile it with the most advanced digital algorithmic technological culture. I'm suspicious a bit about it because it's a different thing. There is no way it's a human nostalgia to recombine it. But I think the advancement, the difference between technology and nature is so radical that one should rather enhance the difference than try to reconcile. Because I heard your fascinating presentation, and thank you once more for making us know about this work. But I saw that you want to create a continuity. The media archaeological approach would say there is a radical discontinuity. And I wonder what you say about this.
Yeah, I wanted to point that in the place of these ruptures and discontinuities, I wanted to find in this archaeological meaning of medium. Of course, that I didn't say that the lasers had something in common with Polish technology. It had rather with something in common in warcraft technology. But as, for example, I studied and examined quite well projects in the frames of, for example, 9 Evenings and its military roots and its military subversive meaning of technology used in art, I was rather fascinated by Stan Ostoja-Kotkowski works because it didn't was the point of the using of technology. He was searching for some connections between nature and electricity, yes. And it was very fascinating for me because now in the many discourses and critical discourses about contemporary and especially media art, we emphasize that there is no border between nature and culture. Yes, in the cultures, in contemporary cultural studies, we emphasize that we should pass this border and mind the gap between that and think another way of being. So it was fascinating for me that he started to think about that in early 60s, that he saw that the sun and electricity and lasers can have the similar meaning for people, for example. Yes, they can be powerful in the meaning of creating living energy and something like that. So I was fascinated rather by not discontinuity and these ruptures, but rather by these connections that he did. And I think that it was the point of his art, because I even didn't know that he did some kinds of video projections on Uluru mountain. And it was very interesting for me to discover these topics. But as said Ingeborg, it's very difficult to get any materials in Poland. There is a big archive of him in Australia, and not so good, not so well accessible from the abroad. And in Poland, we have in 2 museums, in Przasnysz Museum, Historical Museum in the city where he was born, and in Zachęta National Gallery, there are some steel frames in Zachęta and some documentations of work, nothing that were moving, nothing that were video, nothing that documented such kind of interactive art that they did. So as I said, for me, a very interesting idea was to connect nature and technology, so nature and culture from that point of view. So, for example, from my point of view and from the point of view of media archaeology, technology and nature are completely different universes, but he saw that in a different way.
I would just like then we have to go on, that our last artist don't wait for us. But I would like to say something about this gap between what Wolfgang said, between humans, nature and technology. And when you read the famous now popular scientist from early 60s till today, Ray Kurzweil, then you see about the singularity when he is showing with the data, with real possibilities, what will happen in 20 years. All what we think is a future, unbelievable future of merge of human body and technology. I think artists are having kind of intuition of possibilities that will really happen in the future. And anybody who wants to get all this data that he is putting, it's now, this book is now about singularity, it's not about very, like a writer. Yes, I know, we have to go. But it's about this. So I would just like to say this connection or gap between that. So Ivan is showing me we have to another artist as well. So thank you so much. I hope you stay with us on Zoom. And we talk to, and video is beautifully to watch in the exhibition and fits perfectly to the other works. So we will make photos and send you. Thank you very much, Małgorzata. Goodbye. So I apologize to our last he has only 15 minutes. Okay, I don't say at the moment nothing, but afterwards, when he's gone. So please visit Tomasović, I'm apologizing, I forgot he is working and he didn't have time to join us later. Oprosti, ne čujemo te. Možeš malo vidjeti na Zoomu šta se dešava? Mikrofon uključiti. We see, but we don't see him anyway. So, say something. We don't hear you. A microphone, do you see down on the left side? It's microphone maybe slash over microphone. You just have to click in Zoom. Or your computer somehow, we don't hear you. It happens sometimes with Zoom. Anybody have advice? Marco, do you have advice? Change his, sorry, change? Yeah, you have to do something in Zoom. We don't hear you. What?
Oh. Can you now hear me?
No, yes, wonderful. Now we hear you. Can you talk?
Oh, great.
Yeah, okay, wonderful, please.
Yeah, I'm really sorry there was some problems with technology. So I'm really sorry about my time. I'm actually in my working place right now, so I have to finish in time because I can't go home if this goes too far. So I prepared a little presentation. Let me just see. Yeah, so okay, so the work Ambis, you saw, I suppose, work in the gallery. It was first meant to be established in the Faculty of Philosophy in Split. So the faculty is located in the Brodomerkur, or the former Brodomerkur office building, and once shallow pool in the first floor with the golden fishes. And I tried to evoke, now somehow forgotten, that structural thread of the building with depictions of fantastical zoomorphic and anthropomorphic hybrids. I kind of tried to negate the floor, the metaphorically break it, and open a platform for discussion about the relative and relevant questions of contemporary world, like environmental problem, ecological sustainability, and stuff like that. So it is worth noting that I used artificial intelligence, but I tried to use it ethically. It was guided by my previous body of work as a input. So the issue with technology is that the machine now can autonomously learn the visual language from examples of real artistic work. So creators whose works are used to train AI did not give their consent, nor were they credited. And while the machine produces original content, it can very easily replicate the handwriting and style of artists. As you know, it's enough to give it textual instructions and so I rather use my own works. I use my own works that I did before. I gave them as an input to and gave machine just. I wanted him to produce these works, and he produced them really quickly in massive quantities. And then I used overpainted them. A visual work produced in the traditional sense, in a way, with a new tool. AI is a tool, and it will become ever-present part of our lives as we approach this digitally augmented reality. And therefore, I wouldn't say that this ambus is created by AI or in collaboration, but really AI was just a tool. And it's hard to say what the future will bring us, but I'm sure that one of the important areas of our reflection will become this digital ethics and meta-bioethics. Today we think about issues of authorship, of AI for military purposes, but tomorrow we will be dealing with civil rights of machines and design biological creatures. So in the video now you can see the works that I used as inputs. These are my works that I made them with a brush. So they were just inputs or something like that, like prompts, as we call them today. So currently this artificial intelligence lacks creativity and human sense. So some say that the greatest proof of soul existence is simply to look at, read, or listen to art. Fortunately, we are kind of fallen out of love with that. It was just the main theme for the last year or so. But I believe it won't be long before AI will autonomously, without any human instruction, create entire new realities and simulations of boundless universes within which we will lie the most valuable artworks in history. It seems that like we are on the end of the era. I'm kind of still in love with this tool. And as you can see in video, this work is created as 24 pieces stickers. And this was temporary. I produced it for that place, and idea is that the stickers will be removed and destroyed. But when I took them from the floor, the materiality of these stickers kind of were really interesting to me in the same way that burning or disposing them would be. So in sense, I think the work is the digital preparation for the print. This is the work. This art installation is this was temporary, and so now I have a couple of works. I have installation as something like performance. This was temporary. I have these stickers that are going to be destroyed in the future, and I got the digital originals, like NFTs. I made, I use this technology of, I tokenize them, and there are something that could be bought and, I don't know, to be owned. But this work can be enjoyed in those 3 layers. And now in the video, you see the new work I'm creating. I'm not using this ex nihilo principle, like everything in one singularity. I wanted to explore this emptiness. And I also used AI, but this time I used Chat GPT or chatbots to give me the concepts. So I'm not using ChatGPT as my assistant or some friend or peer work colleague that I kind of explore ideas. So this was the first piece I did, and I wanted to talk about Croatia and tourism and my own life. In this work, I kind of wanted to synthesize or to give one dot for the end for my body of work as a vice today acting like a healer with my Institute of Integrative Medicine. So I have a lot of beautiful new age, and I don't believe in new age, I don't believe in these edges of science, but horoscope hacking. Homeopathic erotica is something that ChatGPT derived as the most precious part of this body of work that I wanted to just put in with some transmedia procedures into painting. And there are 5 works for this new cycle. In this one that you are going to see next, everything is made by ChatGPT, and it was like ChatGPT 2 maybe, or maybe it was 3, but it was really, it was always hard to use something that AI would produce. So this is reserved for remediation of cultural needs. All of these pieces are kind of my worries about the future of this technosphere that we are going to live. So who knows what's going to happen in the future? Because everything that exists in the physical universe was once condensed into a single point of unimaginable density, and that compressed reality exploded into a vast volume of space. And now, if we pick any single part from this planet, it is filled with love. And all living beings need, and they need, like other beings, they need the remainings of other beings to build a self and to use them as energy. And we will expand it to space, but if we continue to grow exponentially in our number, in the end we will consume whole reality in a way. So this is something that I'm struggling with as an artist. So I kind of wanted to present you my ideas how to ethically use artificial intelligence in how much time left. I'm open for your questions, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much taking your time. Obviously, you are a very busy person. we were putting you on the end because we knew that you don't have time before and afterwards as well. So anybody have a question? You have some time to talk to us, right? So it's not so that you have to run.
I got like 5 minutes.
Okay,
yes.
5 minutes. So anybody have a question?
Sorry.
or to say something about? Because you were putting quite a lot of ideas, and I mean, looking at your work that we are presenting from being on the floor, walking over your creatures and putting them on the wall, just watching them, it's a complete another concept in principle. How do you feel about that? That we are showing on the wall something that you wanted to destroy, and then probably even decided to show it like that. How do you feel about that, that we are not walking over that, just watching? Is it another perception of your work?
Oh, when I created the work, I was painting it on display. I didn't place the display down, so I think the work kind of functions better as a wall carpet than on the floor. Although it was meant to be on the floor, and it's really nice to just swim in those creatures when you walk on them. But the visual representation itself, I think, it's kind of better established as a wall piece. The problem with the concept is that I really wanted to make it ephemeral, like temporal, to ruin it. But I think it's kind of beautiful to give it just second life and to watch it deteriorate through time. This material is going to fade away. UV light is going to burn all the colors. If I applicate it on the wall over and over, it is going to fall apart. So it's a slow that in a way.
But
this is something I prefer than the original thought of just burning them or do whatever.
But another issue what actually goes together with the Aboriginal art that we were mentioning today in several questions, that Aboriginals was never doing their art with the sand to keep them, and not before the foreigners, actually, white people came and said them, this is good, you should put on the canvas. We would never know what they did before. And on the other hand, media artists are doing a lot of projects that they don't exist anymore after a while. And if you don't make photos or videos, they don't exist as well. So which means we all the time get to this new age connecting to this very, very old age, because most of Western civilization, of all civilization, is that to keep the art as long as possible. And we were always with the digital art thinking how to keep the digital art to stay forever, and it is very difficult. No, we don't believe it. It will disappear, actually. So I think you don't have at the moment time, but it would be nice to discuss also with you, and maybe tomorrow on our artist talk about this, what is actually necessary to keep for the future generations, what is necessary and why we should keep the art, or what is happening with the art which is disappearing. So thank you so much for your time. You are the last one, and we will now enjoy our Rijeka sunny day, and I suppose you are also somehow in a sunny environment. So we have some participants who are from Northern and they enjoy sun, and we are going now to have a coffee on the sun. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you in live once, and maybe if you have a chance to come to see the exhibition, it's really beautiful, and you will enjoy it together with your art and the other artists. So thank everybody, so goodbye, and thank everybody now who are with us. And we just can close this session, and with hope that people will come to see exhibition also, and when we put this on YouTube, we will have a chance to give a broader public to not only see and hear your presentations, but also to rethink about a lot of important things that we do. So just in short, because I didn't do it, I will read his CV, and then we can put it on the before him. So Vice Tomasović, born in Split, 1986. After completing general high school in Omiš, in Croatia, enrolled in art education at the Art Academy of the University of Split, where he graduated in 2009. His involvement in the contemporary art scene led him to fund the Almisa Open Air Festival, dedicated to contemporary art in Omiš, which he has directed since 2010. As a former president of Croatian Association of Fine Artists in Split and director of exhibition activities at Salon Galić, very famous gallery in Split, from 2015 and to 2023, he has made a significant contribution to the culture and artist life of Split and Croatia. He is currently the director of Olive Museum Klis. He is also a finalist for the year's Radovan Putar Award, very well good award, in very important award in Croatia. Tomasović has participated in numerous solo and group exhibitions, art festivals, and events when he has acted as an organizer, curator, exhibitor, and or performance. Okay, so that's about him. Thank you so much, and see you in another occasion. Goodbye.